Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free. If the game is rigged, change the game.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Game changer, game changer, game changer, game changer. The Game Changer Radio Network.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy,
Nigel?
the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Sound effects. Fade to Black. How you doing? Yeah. How you doing? K28. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Wednesday, March 18th. 77 days into the new year, 288 days left. As always, we are live from the truthfunders.com studios right here in Burbank, California. Do you have a book, expedition, invention, or paranormal documentary you need to get funded? Go to truthfunders.com. Truth Funders, the #1 source of backing your project into the fringe. Go there now. Support Truth Funders. www.truthfunders.com. Welcome to everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. Welcome. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. A big, proud salute to the men and women in uniform all around the world fighting the good fight for us. For without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you could not hear me right now. And I need you to think about that. Got a little message in Facebook right before the show. Producers come running in here, handing it off to me. I'm going to read that to you in just a bit. My mantra, been reading it all week, always do the right thing. Life gives you two choices every single day. You can do the right thing, you can do the wrong thing. You know the difference. I do. It's harder and not as much fun to do the right thing, but you run clean and centered. It's the way I live my life. You should too. That's why you are here. Let's do this, man. Support the podcast. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com. $2 a month. $2 a month. You get our complete show history going back now. It's going to be 2 years. It's a couple hundred shows there. Support this broadcast. $2 a month. It really helps, goes a long way. Every penny spent on that podcast goes right back into this show. Why? We lose money every month. Sort of. We keep the lights on, though. We've managed to do 4 shows a week, 3 hours a night with the very best, brightest, biggest guest possible. Right here every single night for 3 straight hours live right here from Southern California. Faders.org, www.faders.org. Become a Fader-Not today. It's free. It's fun. Become a Fader-Not. You want to be that person at the water cooler. I say it at every show, but you do. Come hang out with the family. Become a Fader-Not. Get your badge. Become part of something. This is a wave. It is taking over. I think it's already taken over. Fader-Nots rule. They rule. Follow us on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. At JChurchRadio. Get yourself some TweetDeck. That's what you do. That's what I use. Get TweetDeck, come hang out in the sandbox, and watch the phenomena as it just takes off and rolls. The evening here, 3 hours, just come hang out in Twitter. all the other Fadernauts, everybody's cool. No trolling, no nothing. Any of that happens, man, they get run out of town. And they find out very quickly this ain't the place for them. They have no fun here. They have no fun. I am so fired up. This week we're going to give away 5 more tickets, 5 more passes to Contact in the Desert. They slipped up and sent me in advance one of the winners for tomorrow. Should I announce it? Whoa. Should I announce who won today? I'm going to do it. Nancy Nurse, you are going to Contact in the Desert. I thought it was a mistake. I thought, what are the odds of that? Thousands of entries. And Nancy Nurse wins. She is going to Contact in the Desert. Oh, yeah. I think she was going anyway. But now she's really going. Can't wait. Nancy actually was in town a few months ago. And came by the pad, man. We had a cookout. It was cool. Have a Fadernaut in town contacted us, and yeah, we hung out. All right, Nancy, congratulations. You are going to Contact in the Desert. Tomorrow we're going to announce 4 more winners. All right? I've been announcing and talking about this all week. Last week, KGRA and Fade to Black started our quest to take over the world. This week it continues. 1 day at a time, 1 guest at a time, 1 listener at a time. That's what we are doing. Tonight on the show, director James Fox. Out of the Blue, one of the greatest documentaries ever. We'll talk about that tonight. I Know What I Saw, one of the other greatest documentaries ever. I think a lot of people argue about what is the best documentary of UFOs of all time. And these are the 2 that they have to pick from. The crazy thing is, James Fox did them both. James Fox will be joining us tonight. We'll be discussing all of the breaking news in ufology from all around the world. Other stuff, too. We're going to talk some recipes. I'll save that for later. And, of course, we'll be talking about, 701, his new project. And excited about that. So at the bottom of the hour, James Fox will be joining us. All right. Welcome to everybody. I don't know what your avenue of listening to this show of choice is. I don't know what it is. But we have so many now, and we're going to try to continue to aggressively add everything that we can. Myself, Race, we're always discussing different things and just trying to get the message out there. Right now we have Spreaker, we have TalkStream Live, we have TuneIn, we have KGRA, we have JimmyChurchRadio.com, we have Live 365, we have the podcast, we have YouTube. We're still waiting for iHeart, but that's going to happen anytime. It could be any day. So everything is there. Different streams, it's all there. Any way that you need to get connected, you can get connected. All right, so we're doing our best every single day to provide this show to you directly. All right, with that, man, I'm fired up, man. James Fox is on the show tonight, man. Last night, Carrie Cassidy. The night before, Larry Warren and Peter Robbins. What a week here at Fade to Black. And I say it every week when we roll into Wednesday and I look back and we get to Thursday, we get to Fader night, and I look back and I think, man, how did we do that? How did we pull that off? But I said the same thing the week before and the week before and the week before. It is just a humbling experience every single night to sit in here in this chair and bring on these guests and hang out with you Fadernauts. I just have to tell you, and I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. It is a humbling experience. It's an incredible experience. And tonight, James Fox joins us once again. With that, let's get this show cracking. Today, Alice in Chains guitarist Jerry Cantrell, 49 years old, calls himself a redneck. Pretty cool guy. What was that song, Rooster? It's a good tune. Dedicated to his dad, a Vietnam vet. Also today, where do I get these facts? That's just off the top of my head. All I have here in front of me, Jerry Cantrell's 49. How do I know he's a redneck? Well, I think he said it to me once. Director, Luc Besson. 56 years old. Luc Besson, I'm just going to say this right now. Out of all the cats out there, and that includes Kubrick. Out of all the cats out there, Luc Besson, truly, Spielberg, anybody that you can name, Luc Besson is truly one of the best. The Fifth Element, Luc Besson, 56 years old, as talented as it gets. Also today, actor Brad Dourif, 65 years old. Who's Brad Dourif? He played Chucky in Child's Play. He was also in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, by the way. He starred in that. Our dead guy's birthday today is a moment of silence, please. Wilson Pickett. That's right. 1941 to 2006. Got his start over at Stax Records, by the way. I have a Wilson Pickett Street there in Memphis. Wilson Pickett, 1949 to 2006, died at the age of 65. Wrote songs and had hits such as, check this out, In the Midnight Hour, Land of a Thousand Dances, Mustang Sally. Wilson Pickett was the man. Not only was he a great singer, but he was a great writer. He was a great composer. He wrote songs that were done by Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, the Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, Grateful Dead, Booker T and the MGs, his backup band, Genesis, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Hootie and the Blowfish, Echo and the Bunnymen, Roxy Music, Springsteen, Los Lobos, LA guys, The Jam, and even Annie DeFranco. Died of a heart attack on January 19th, 2006, at the age of 64. There you go, Wilson Pickett. Man, what a talent. All right. Let's go. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow us on Facebook, too, as well. YouTube. Go follow, like, and subscribe. Everything is there. Tonight, we have James Fox. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. You can Skype in Fade2Black14. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. We're going to have a great time tonight with James, and I'm sure we will have some time to open up the phone lines. Email throughout the show is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Simple enough. You can also go to the contact page at jimmychurchradio.com, where we use non-NSA specially encrypted servers. Just make it good. Make it good. Get it past to the producers here, and it will make it into me. Contact in the Desert Contest. Go to jimmychurchradio.com. Click on the banner. Tomorrow is our last day. You need to enter the contest today. You want your name drawn tomorrow. You need to enter the contest today. That's it. After this, it's over. Then it's up to you to get out here. If you can't make it, let us know. We will give your tickets away to somebody that can. All right? Let's see. Today, where is it? Yeah, it's right here. I'll do this right before the break. I got this on Facebook today. I didn't see it get posted. It was posted to the jimmychurchradio.com fan page and was uncovered by one of the producers. Oh, you got to read this on the show tonight. You got to read this. We responded to it. So here it is. It's from Jean-Francois Aubry. I think he's French. French fries, French bread, French toast. Jean-Francois Aubry. He says, do you really think the USA are the land of freedom? Lots of laughs. The country with the highest percentage of people in jail in the world? And do you really think the USA Army is for protect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? That's just how he wrote it. He's French. He can't help himself. Lots of laughs. What about oil? Well, I just got to say this. Yes, absolutely. We are the land of the free. I love this country. I do. So that's the end of that. Yes. Do I really think? Yes, I do really think. I do. Do we have the highest percentage of people in jail in the world? Absolutely. Well, I think we do. Sounds about right. But this country's got issues. All countries got issues. But the very fact that you were able to even get that post to me on Facebook, an American company, Jean-Francois, you need to think about that before you type things, my brother, because there are problems all over the world in every single country. This one, I live here, and I love it. And you know what? If you came and visited and tasted our French fries with our French dressing, you would love it too, Jean-Francois. I love France. France is cool. Paris is great. It's beautiful. It's awesome. But I wouldn't live there. I live here, and I love it. I love this country. Tonight on the show, James Fox. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. That's right, on the Game Changer Network, KJCR, and KGRA, The Planet. All right, James Fox right after the break. No, at the bottom of the hour, right after the break. All the news that you know nothing about. All right, Jean-Francois, don't get too upset, or I'll read it again. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously. Give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. KJCR, the Game Changer Network. KGRA, the planet, taking over the world. Just got an email right in the break. Go tell the French guy to talk to his grandparents about who ran who out of Paris. I'm not going to say who sent the email. It's funny, though. I didn't even think about that part. That's funny. All right. Tonight, James Fox. James Fox, director of I Know What I Saw, Out of the Blue, and his new film, 701. We'll be discussing all of that tonight. And we'll be taking your calls later on, 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. All right. Let's get to the news that you know nothing about. And this first story says it all. Today, I woke up to the terrorist attack in Tunisia, all over the news. Right before the show tonight, I went to all the major outlets, and one of them was CNN.com for any updates, and it wasn't there at all. Go check for yourself right now. Go to CNN.com, get an update on Tunisia. It's not there. That is whack. That is whack. I can't even figure that out. A severe solar storm created a stunning display of light in the night sky over parts of the United States, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand early this morning. Spotted by those lucky enough, to be awake. Aurora Borealis in the northern atmosphere and the Aurora Australis in the southern atmosphere. The lights were the product of large geomagnetic blast from the sun that arrived Tuesday at about 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Although the storm could affect GPS technology and power grids, The NOAA said earlier today that there were no reports of disruptions. Wasn't this a Category 4? Like borderline 5? It was supposed to be a 1. But the pictures are amazing. Oh, I wanted to say really quick before we get to this next news story. Whoa. Post the pictures from Michael Oeming. Michael Oeming, our good friend, love Michael, one of the most talented comic book artist in the world. There's only a few guys that have his talent out there. And, there's a lot of good ones. There's only a few great ones. Michael Oeming's one of them. Right now, as we speak, Michael Oeming, well, I think he's left. He's since departed. He's at Stonehenge. And he busted off a bunch of pictures today. Here they are. They just popped up in Twitter. Go to Twitter right now. Look at these pics. These are from Michael Oeming. I love this first one. Anyway, Michael Oeming is at Stonehenge, and he's just sending these to me all day long. Jimmy, check this out, check this out, check this out. These are incredible pictures. And we've all seen pictures of Stonehenge. That's one thing. But when you see a friend of yours and you see his artistry and how he takes his pictures, then you take a look at these. These are absolutely incredible shots. And the one shot, all four are good. But if you go to the first one, which is a close-up of it, look at this. That's an incredible picture of Stonehenge. And homeboy, Michael, and I know he's listening right now, but Michael has got one high-def megapixel camera. This thing is, he's probably busting 29, 28 megapixels. But look at this shot, which is picture number 2. I'm going to get to the news. I got to get back to the news and get this done. Look at the second shot. Look at the people off to the left. See that? See the tourist group? Look at the size of what is going on. We all know this about Stonehenge, but then when you see a picture like this, it's like, holy crap. And then he sent me another an email with a bunch of pictures in it. One of the comments that he made, he said, Jimmy, and I thought this was interesting. He said, check this out. But Göbekli Tepe is twice as old and twice as sophisticated. And it was an interesting observation from Michael. And it's one of those things, that's the way it hit him. So anyway, go to Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. I'm going to retweet this now. Thank you. Boom. Done. Follow us on Twitter, at JChurchRadio. You will go and see these pics right now for Michael Oeming. And we've got more. Those are 4. All right, back to the news. When North Korea's internet went down last December, it was in retaliation for the alleged attack on Sony Pictures. A top American lawmaker in charge of overseeing cybersecurity reportedly now has admitted. Representative Michael McCall, Republican of Texas, the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, was the first U.S. official to confirm that the denial of service attack was reactively launched against North Korea, reported Bloomberg today. Speaking at an event hosted by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the CSIS, a Washington think tank, McCall did not say who actually executed the attack and declined to clarify if he meant the U.S. was behind it. But what he said was, there were, and I'm quoting here, there were some cyber responses to North Korea, end quote. In January, the Associated Press quoted 2 senior U.S. officials in January saying that the U.S. government had not been responsible for the outage. Hacktivist group Gator League claimed a responsibility at the time. However, they also attacked the site of Britain's surveillance agency, GCHQ, a major U.S. ally. The mysterious group ceased to exist at the end of February when it announced on Twitter, from this point on, it's disband. At the Homeland Security Committee's page, McCall is described as, and I'm quoting here, this is on the Homeland Security Committee's page, a leader in cybersecurity policy who helped author the 2012 Cybersecurity Enhancement Act. The bill passed the Senate and was signed into law in December 2014, not long after the Sony hack. McCall's congressional district in South Central Texas has a high concentration of tech companies. Well, you know it was us. It better have been. 17 years. 17 years after Oregon decided to become the first state in the union to hold all elections by mail ballot, it is taking another pioneering step to encourage more people to cast ballots by automatically registering them to vote. This is according to the AP. 17 years after Oregon decided to become the first state to hold all elections with mail-in ballots, it took another step yesterday to broaden the participation by automatically registering people to vote. Governor Kate Brown signed the bill that puts the burden of registration on the state instead of the voters. Interesting. This is something that I think its time has come. It should have happened a long time ago. Under the legislation, every adult citizen in Oregon who has interacted with the Driver and Motor Vehicle Services Division, the DMV, since 2013 but hasn't registered to vote will automatically receive a ballot in the mail 20 days before the election. All you do is vote and you're registered. It's about time. It's going to add 300,000 new voters. Think about that. I mean, registering to vote is a pain in the booty. It's about time. It only makes sense. I hope if it isn't screwed with. Thanks to Apple's new MacBook and Google's new Chromebook Pixel, that's right, MacBook and Chromebook, both platforms, the USB-C has arrived. That's right. It's a single cable that will charge and connect. Sounds great, doesn't it? But if you think about it, now we have an issue. That's right. You have a port now that can be accessed from a charger or for data. Why is this a problem? Now anything can get plugged in and anything can be accessed. Think about it for a second. Something can act as a charger and maybe access your data. Everybody runs around looking for chargers, don't you? You don't care who owns it. You got a charger? You plug in, don't you? Think about this for a second. You don't know what you're plugging in now. Before the USB-C, there was a way to keep yourself somewhat safe. You had two different jacks, one for power, one for data. Now it doesn't matter. Remember last year when I reported on bad USB? Remember that? The malware that was on a USB drive. Think about this for a second. Now we need to put stuff in check. We shall see. I think, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like a universal port. Makes me feel strange. Kraft Singles. That's right. American cheese. That's right. Kraft Singles processed cheese that comes individually wrapped in thin plastic film is the first food to receive the Kids Eat Right label, a stamp of approval designed by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics to help families make healthier decisions at the grocery store. The Kids Eat Right campaign is meant to raise awareness that diets of American kids are lacking in three important components: dairy, calcium, and vitamin D, according to the statement from A&D. But the news hasn't been met with, well, you know, guys like me. Because I got to tell you, I didn't know one of my favorite foods in the world, American cheese, was a staple of the diet. I didn't know that, but it is certainly one of my most favorite things in life, American cheese. And now it's got the stamp of approval. That's it. That is all the news that you know nothing about. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Tonight, James Fox will be joining us right here in a couple of minutes. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. All right. I'm excited. I'm fired up. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back right after this. Do not touch that mouse.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Attention, all Fade or Not. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy. All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Game Changer Network. KGRA, The Planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Welcome to everybody listening around the world, all across the United States. You can follow us on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. If you have any questions for myself or Mr. Fox, hashtag F2BQ in Twitter is the magic. That will get right to me directly here in the studio. All right, let's get this cracking. I am fired up. James Fox was born in England and raised in New York and California. He began his journalism career early in life as an assistant to his father and writer, Charles Fox, a quadriplegic with multiple sclerosis. Together, they traveled on many magazine assignments, interviewing such notables as Stephen Hawking and race car legend Dan Gurney, designer of the Eagle, by the way, for Rolling Stone, Car and Driver, Sports Illustrated. James finished and sold his first documentary to Discovery at the age of 28. He has since completed and distributed TV projects for Sci-Fi, TLC, Nat Geo, History Channel, and has made frequent appearances on Larry King Live, all of them epic, by the way, Nightline, Dateline, Anderson Cooper, and others. His films on UFOs, I Know What I Saw, and Out of the Blue are two of the most watched documentaries on the subject, and his latest film, 701, is a collaboration with director Jamie Tormé. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black our friend James Fox. James, how are you tonight?
I got to meet this guy you're talking about. My God.
He doesn't have a British accent anymore. That's what I want to know.
Wow, gosh, I've done all that. I forgot about all that stuff.
And you're still young. You know what? I didn't add to this, and I should have. You're a father, man. You're a father
I am. Now. Thank you. That's my greatest accomplishment.
All of the pictures as you post them on Facebook. I'm a dad twice over now, and nothing means more to a parent when you see another parent go through the joy of that, because every time you see it, you just kind of look at yourself and you go, I'm old, man, but I want to do that again. That was so cool. So
it's so beautiful. And I remember everyone telling me, "Oh, you don't know until you know. You can't imagine, Yeah. You don't know what love. Yeah. Whatever." And then, of course, it happens to you, and you're just completely gobsmacked by the whole thing. We were so blown away, enthralled. I don't even know what. I'm at a loss for words to describe the feeling when he was born. That we didn't even know what the sex was for the first 10 minutes, and I finally said, "My gosh, perhaps we should determine
peek.
what sex is." We didn't care. It was like he was so beautiful. It was like,
yeah,
oh wow, I forgot.
You know what's funny, and only parents can talk like this, but I'll tell you, everything that you just said, I said and went through all of that word for word. I had the same people coming up to me, "Dude, you don't know." "Yeah, I do." "No, you don't. You don't know." You don't know. And then when you go through it, then you get it. And then what do? James, you're going to have a friend that's about to have a baby, and you're going to go have that same conversation. It's like a rite of passage. You're going to go to them and go, "Dude, you don't know." "Yeah, I do." "No, you don't. You watch."
I just got back from Savannah, Georgia a couple of days ago, and a friend of mine who's actually a wonderful cinematographer who's been doing some camera work for 701, and he's about to become a father, and he's like, "Oh, we had dinner together. What do you think? And what advice can you give me?" I said, "Look, it doesn't matter. It's going to be hard, okay? But it's the most beautiful thing in the world, and nothing matters. That's it. That's all I can say." He's like, "Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I can't tell you how many people are like, 'Oh, you better kiss your mornings goodbye. So much for sleeping in, but you're not going to be sleeping for the next, you're going to be sleep deprived.'" Like, whatever.
One of the things, I need to go back and grab some old, the pictures of the day, the first day in the hospital. We did it here at St. Joe in Burbank. Both of our daughters were born at St. Joe. But this is it, and I know you went through the same thing. It is hysterical. You go through labor, you're up for 12, 14 straight hours in the hospital. You get through all of that, your child is born, the hours are going by. The next thing you know, you've been up for 24 hours, and then something kicks in, this adrenaline thing, and you find yourself, you're up for like the next 20, you're so fired up and excited about being a parent, and then you fall asleep for like 12 hours, because it's a 48-hour thing. Did you go through the exact same situation?
Well, it was funny, actually, because she'd been in what they call predronal labor, and where it's labor, but it's not full-blown labor. It's painful, but, you have to time the gap between the contractions, that sort of thing.
Right.
Know when to go to the hospital. We live kind of a long way away from the hospital. We live on the coast, so our kind of biggest fear was, well, we had a couple fears. Was to get to the hospital prematurely and be sent home again, because she's not dilated a certain amount. They're going to send you right home. So we kind of waited. We had a what do you call a doula, because that's what she wanted to get, a doula. So we got a doula, and she was giving us advice over the phone, and we waited, and I was actually installing a washing machine downstairs in the basement when Rebecca, opens the door and peers out down below. And so what I was doing, "Honey, we need to go to the hospital stat." "Oh, I'm almost done." "No, you don't understand." So it was funny, there I was trying to get the washing machine installed, because everyone was telling us you can't have a baby and not have a washing machine. You got to get that going.
Man, you have no idea what you're saying. It sounds exactly like, what we went through. And
we got to the hospital. She was just slightly, I think it was a 3.5 and needed to be a 4, something like this.
Right.
Centimeters dilated. And they said, "Oh, you know what, since you had a long drive, we're going to keep you here." And not anticipating that she's going to be giving birth anytime soon. And then that was 9 o'clock, and at 1:59 a.m. on May 22nd, 2014, out our little son came.
And what's his name for everybody?
Technically his name is Charles Olivier Willoughby Fox. Long story. My father just passed a couple years ago, so I wanted to get Charles in there. My father's name is Charles.
Sure.
And Willoughby was her grandfather, and he played a key role in my fiance's existence. And so she wanted to get that, and then we wanted a new name altogether, and so we went with something that we felt he can grow into. So he goes by Ollie, His nickname is Jolly Ollie, and but technically on paper it's Charles Olivier Willoughby Fox.
He's certainly one of the most photographed kids in the history of mankind.
Well, you know, I've got this wonderful new camera that I've been using for the documentary portion of 701, and in between not having to use it, you know, professionally, I've been using it on my son, and I've been getting a lot of good practice in.
You think?
He's getting shot with a Ferrari of a camera.
Congratulations. And, you know, let me ask you, what are you, how, now that you're a parent, now you have other concerns in life, and you do what you do. When he's old enough to understand, start to think for himself, which is going to happen at like the age of 2, you know, when the first day he's going to tell you, you're going to say, let's have breakfast, and he tells you, no, I want lunch. You're going to go, okay, he's thinking for himself now. It's going to happen. But what are you going to do? Are you going to sit him down and discuss UFOs with him? Are you going to let him go through life and discover on his own?
I think he's just going to fall asleep to my films every night.
Oh, wow.
I'm kidding.
Wow. I do.
I want him, by the time he's 3, I want him to be able to recite verbatim Out of the Blue. You know?
Oh, man. I have fallen asleep.
He's going to respond to every question that's classified. I'm sorry. We can't talk about that.
I have fallen asleep to Out of the Blue so many nights, and look at me now. So there you go, okay? Think about it.
It's really funny, you know,
oh, man.
Out of the Blue had many different versions. And because, you know, when I set out to do it back in the late 90s, you have a vision of something to be a certain way, and you don't quite. You get exhausted. You run out of money. And you don't quite see it materialize as you initially had envisioned. So it's you know, we've gone back to the drawing board a number of times, and as it stands now, I'm pretty happy with it. I like it very much. But I could see so many ways to improve it, and I could see so many ways to improve I Know What I Saw, and I'm hoping that those improvements are going to be incorporated into 701.
Well, you know, check this out. I don't know if you know this, but I went and checked just one version of Out of the Blue, one version of which there are many, like you said, but one version of Out of the Blue on YouTube, 5,172,873 views.
Holy bejesus.
Young man, you are that is success beyond anybody's wildest dreams. And that's just one version of the film. How does that make you feel when I quote something like that? That's insane.
You know, it's staggering to me. It's so exciting. I mean, I want to make that 300 million views, you know. There's been a resurgence of life in Out of the Blue. You know, we put it on ice for a few years when I was doing I Know What I Saw. A lot of people thought it was a government conspiracy. It wasn't. It was conflicting efforts with some similar material. And but I really feel like there's a demand for this kind of stuff, and I really feel like we've never quite fulfilled that demand to its potential. I feel like there have been certain restrictions with my access in the past, which is getting better. I feel like there's been restrictions regarding the production values with both Out of the Blue and I Know What I Saw, because I really feel like there's an interest. It's one of the few topics that transcends politics and religion and borders, and the whether people believe it or not believe it. I think it's the age-old question: are we alone in the universe? And people like to entertain the idea of UFOs, and I think that there's a thirst for it. So I'm pleasantly surprised, and it excites me at the possibilities, but I'm never satisfied. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And what that number says to me, this is my twisted mind, but if you grabbed 100 people anywhere on planet Earth, 100 people, one of those people has seen one of your films. And that's pretty daunting when you look at it on a global scale.
Really? Is that really right? That math right?
Yeah, that's 5. Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. We got because that film was broadcast. NBC Universal picked it up in 2002, and it was broadcast for 3 years on Sci-Fi Channel. And I think the first screening, they broadcast it a bunch of times. They pay for like a 3-year broadcast window and a flat fee. And then they just broadcast the bejesus out of it because it doesn't cost them any additional money. So every couple of months they put it on air. And each time was, I think the first broadcast was around 2 million, 2.4 million. And then, who knows how many people on Sci-Fi Channel saw it overall? Maybe 10?
Yeah.
Maybe more? I don't know. Over a 3-year period?
I grabbed a bunch of data today. I grabbed all the numbers that I can, and I came up with a number of 65 million. Now, that's in total. That's, I know what I saw out of the blue, YouTube, broadcast numbers, everything that I could gather. And when you look at a number like that, and there's 765 billion on planet Earth, I don't know how many that number is out there. But if you've got that kind of number, that kind of coverage, 60 million people, that's insane. I mean, that is certainly insane. And then you combine, if you even start to throw in all of your appearances on Larry King.
Well, that's a really good point, because for a couple of years, I would give them full access, obviously, to all the material, and they would air segments of Out of the Blue, small segments, but segments. And gosh, that's one way I can gauge the level of viewership is the response I would get. And I did Nightline and Dateline, a bunch of different things that I've always wanted to do 60 Minutes, but I don't know if they'll ever delve into the topic. I mean, imagine if they did a frontline special on UFOs. What a boon that would be for the whole phenomenon. But I would gauge the viewership by the level of response I'd get on my, either emails or website questions, that sort of thing. And every time I did a Larry King show, my God, I could not believe how many people got in touch with me. People that I hadn't seen perhaps in a long time. People that were in different parts of Africa, South America.
Yep.
They had a hell of a viewership. It was pretty amazing.
It's amazing.
I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, mass media, when you get to that level, it is frightening who sees what and when and where. And it certainly has its effect. And when it comes to ufology, we are in such a smaller world. We're not even, sports. Think about how big sports is. And
my God.
Yeah, and then you come into the UFO circle, and everybody knows each other. We know everybody. It's a much smaller scale. And so, you're on this show today. It's it's one of the biggest shows in the country. That's great. That's fantastic. I get that. But you're not necessarily going to hear from somebody you don't know or haven't talked to in 40 years. But you go on Larry King, and somebody that you knew in second grade that lives in Madagascar sends you an email. Dude,
Exactly.
No,
that's really true.
Yeah, I wanted to get one thing out of the way really quick, because I know that a lot of our listeners right now are going to look at 701 and go to the website. What's going on with that? And just, tell everybody what is happening with the website.
Okay, so, yeah, again, it's not any big conspiracy. It's we licensed, there's a couple of options I could have done. I was in Scotland when it all kind of came down. We licensed material from the John Mack Institute, and at the last minute, gosh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the weirdest light flying over my house right now.
Go grab your camera. Gab
out here on the patio all the time, and I'm looking at pretty weird lights. Anyway, we at the last minute we got in that we could use a trailer. Actually, my business partner put that in the contract that we would allow us to use a trailer from the material that Dr. John Mack shot back in 1994 in Roswell, Zimbabwe. Phenomenal material. But evidently, they said that they didn't anticipate us using a trailer of that length, that it was longer than your average trailer, and that it was something different. And so, in lieu of re-editing the whole thing at the time, I didn't even have the option to do that. We gave we said, look, there's nothing we can do about it right now, but we could put a passcode on the website and we'll revisit it. And I just haven't edited it down or figured out exactly how. We're sort of in negotiations about it right now. So we've licensed the material, we're using the material, and we've put a temporary password on it just for the time being.
Okay, so 701 is still in production. There's no, that's.
Oh, no, we're totally, yeah, absolutely still in production. We are writing. Tracy Torme probably in about 2 weeks' time is putting together the script. So here's what we're doing. it's been tricky because on the one hand, it's been wonderful. We've got Tracy Torme's got amazing credentials, but we're also dealing with the Writers Guild and we're dealing with CAA, and so we've had to raise a lot more funds than you would normally have to raise because there's a certain expectation with CAA and with the Writers Guild and with Tracy that this is what his standard amount is, and it's difficult to, if you want the support of CAA and you want the support of the Writers Guild and all those things, the benefits that come with that, then you have to come up with a rather large fee. And some of the investors that I've had come forward were like, well, gosh, why do we have to come up with several $100,000 just to write the script? When it's partially his film too. But unfortunately, that's just the way. Fortunately, too, that's the way it's been because we are, because we're operating under the umbrella of CA, which is going to be a major boon for the production in the end. It's just made it more difficult right now, and so there's the starting of the script, which will probably happen in about 2 weeks. We have the whole thing storyboarded and mapped out, 3x5 cards. Tracy's put it together beautifully. All the concept is laid out, and then we have a probably 4-hour television documentary special. So you've got the feature film, which is going to roll out in theaters, and then you have a 4-hour, probably a 4-hour. It could be 5, could be 3.5. I'm not sure exactly. A TV special that we'll probably have hosted by somebody, maybe myself, maybe somebody else. I don't know the answer to that.
I'm right here. Look no further. Hey, who's narrating? Who's narrating 701?
It's not gonna be narrated. I can't really disclose too much information about it, but it's going to be based on a factual. There will be a couple of fictional characters that'll be based on reality. All the cases are exact. All the evidence is exact. All the dates and archival footage are exactly as they are. It's just that there'll be a fictional character that's based on a real life character playing that part. So that's the feature part of it. But then there's an infusion. There's a hybrid of real documentary stuff in there as well, which Tracy's worked out a pretty ingenious way of splicing the two together. And then there's a colossal amount of spillover footage material that we've shot. I mean, we have 16 terabytes of the most amazing interviews and cases. And this is the first production that I've been involved with that deals with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Because if you look at it out of the blue, and I know what I saw, it's just Close Encounters of the First and Second.
Right.
These are cases of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where obviously, I'm sure your listeners know, but it's when beings, the occupants of these craft, are allegedly reported.
When by the way, I know a guy that's got a really cool voice. I'm just letting you know. I can put you in touch with him. He's it's a joke, James. You're supposed to laugh at this point. You're supposed to die laughing.
I was thinking about whether I was going to tell you who I had in mind to do the hosting, but I didn't. I thought I better not reveal it right now because But listen, we're probably. Oh God, maybe 1.5 to 2 years out. I mean,
you think it's going to be?
Out of the blue, first version took 3 years, and then another 2 years, and then another 2 years. So 7 years total. I know what I saw. I think it was 4 years, and so far we're in 701 about what, a year and a half, 2 years, maybe a year and a half, something like that, 2 years maybe.
Now, when I look back and I see Stephen Hawking and Dan Gurney. By the way, I don't know if you heard the intro or when I dropped. Dan Gurney, the Eagle, the design of that.
I've got a photograph of myself in that car.
I am a huge Dan Gurney guy. Indianapolis. I've been to Indianapolis 500 since 1972, 1973. So I'm a big.
I went to the Indianapolis 500 when Patrick Bedard in 1986 had a terrible high-speed accident.
Yes,
and I was taking bits of debris off the racetrack.
I've witnessed a couple of really, really, really bad accidents there too, and most people don't understand that these guys are they're going 190 to 200 miles an hour in the turns. The turns, okay? They're hitting 230 miles an hour down the straightaway. Now, when you crash at that speed, bad things happen. It's never...
You're in an airplane.
Yes. It's never... it's not a fender bender, man. It's
No.
It has a bad ending every time. But
oh my God,
what was it like when you go and I see this, Car and Driver and Sports Illustrated and Dan Gurney? Did your dad and your family? We're going to be up against a break, and we can pick this up when we come back in a couple of minutes. But was your family open to UFOs and the entire genre? What was that like growing up?
No, very much not at all. Actually, my father was completely opposed to me doing UFOs. He was desperately trying to talk me out of it. And I remember this like 24 years ago. So it's a dead-end street. There's nothing to it. Don't waste your life. I mean, it was literally... My dad was kind of a mainstream journalist, and my father was, because of his condition, with multiple sclerosis, I was his legs, his secretary, his chauffeur, his nurse. I mean, we would travel together on assignment and for all these... And we'd go to wonderful places and meet incredible people. When I told him I was setting out to do this UFO thing, he was just like, "Son, please reconsider. You're wasting your life."
Well, and was it because of his career in journalism, and he knew how the media looked at ufology?
I believe firmly. He believed there was nothing to it, that it was all hogwash. But he was my biggest fan before he died. I mean, he did a complete turnaround. And I tell you, one of the pivotal points for him was when I brought him to one of my interviews with Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper. And, he was an iconic figure of my father's generation. And
sure.
I was thinking, my God, why on earth would this man, with everything to lose and nothing to gain, put his neck out? And, and he talked about very unambiguous encounters. And that was kind of a turning point for my father. And, of course, Edgar Mitchell and a handful of others. And the National Press Club was the kicker for him.
Let's pick up right there where when we get back after this break. This is Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the Masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, director James Fox for the duration. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Alternative Talk, KGRA.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. May arrives soon, and with it comes another Contact in the Desert. So join me in Joshua Tree, California, for the 3rd annual Contact in the Desert Conference, being held May 29th through the 31st. 2015 brings another awesome lineup of speakers, including publisher of Legendary Times, Giorgio Tsoukalos, New York Times best-selling author David Wilcock, journalist and conspiracy expert Jim Mars, former head of UFO Project for the MOD Nick Hope, investigative reporter Linda Moulton Howe, author and contactee Travis Walton, UFO historian Richard Dolan, and many more. You don't want to miss this. Fade to Black and KGRA will be there broadcasting live May 29th. Just visit contactinthedesert.com for tickets and information. That's contactinthedesert.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi,
oi. I'm Rhys Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses, Game Changer Network, and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, James Fox, director. Shoot us an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can also tweet us. Follow us right now at JChurchRadio. Hey, James, are you on Twitter?
One more time?
Are you on Twitter?
Yep, I'm here.
Are you on Twitter?
I have an account, but I never tweet.
Oh, man, you should be hanging out tonight. You know what?
I know. Everyone keeps telling me you've got to get... Well, I've got so many levels of communication with so many people that I just can't handle anymore.
Yeah, I know. But you know what?
I know it's a good thing to do, but...
I heard, I'm not too sure, but I heard Twitter's going to take off. It's going to get big. You know, that's what I heard. Hey,
rumor has it.
Yeah, rumor has it.
You hear about John Podesta's tweet?
Yeah. We're going to talk. How'd you know I was going to bring that up? I'm going to do that right now. What I wanted to say was for everybody out there, I'm going to throw you under the bus. I'm going to throw us under the bus.
All right, let's do it.
What does a radio guy and a director talk about before a radio show on a phone call? The answer is we talk chicken
dinner.
Chicken recipes. It was too man. We were serious, man. It was
my fiance said, "My God, this guy knows what he's talking about." Man. You're like, well, you want to make sure the meat's up to 150 degrees with that thermometer, then you put the oven on 450 for the first 10 minutes and pull the chicken out and lower it down to 350. I'm like, Jesus, this guy knows what he's talking about.
You know, it's so funny because if people could only hang out and live in our shoes for a minute, it's not all UFOs and fringe all the time. We have lives too, but it was really funny. It was a great conversation on chicken, the art of chicken.
I have a friend of mine that said, he said, well, if I lose the bet, I'll buy you a chicken dinner. I thought it was kind of funny.
and how's the chicken, by the way? Is it? Yeah.
I just had a chicken leg, and it melted off the bone.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man.
Really, no, you nailed it, man. It really did. I put it on 450. I got the skin crispy, and then I lowered it to 350, put some tarragon. I put just a tiny little bit of butter in the pan, just a little tiny bit.
Sure.
And the meat was just melting off the bone. Really good.
Oh, man, I'm ready to eat
Very
right now. What do you? I have so many things to talk about with you on so many different subjects, but we have there's been a lot of breaking news for ufology over the last 2 or 3 weeks that we normally don't get. We have Obama, we have Podesta, we have John Burroughs and the VA administration in his situation that finally got cleared up with Rendlesham. A lot of things in the last few weeks. Let's start with Podesta. I'm sure you weren't surprised, but what did you come away from that with?
Well, I actually contacted Leslie Kane after it happened because she's got pretty good rapport with John Podesta.
Yep.
And I said, hey, what's this an indication of? Like, you think about it. He's a very smart man. What was behind that? He knew the ripple effect from his tweet. So why did he do it? What was his objective? What was he trying to accomplish? It was very interesting. Did he feel like he was unable to get Obama to do anything further, or did they make inquiries during his presidency? Did he not? To be honest with you, I don't think Obama really cares one way or the other about the UFO phenomena. I just don't. I remember during the presidential debates back in 2007 or 8, it didn't seem like he really cared less. But I did ask, Leslie Kane. I said, "Hey, what do you think? You anticipate any further action?" And she didn't really give me the impression she felt that Obama was going to do anything. And I don't know how much further Podesta's going to push it. But I am producing a film called Pretty Slick. It's in its 5th year of production. It's a 5-year environmental impact study on the BP oil spill. It's narrated by Peter Coyote. And one of the things that George W. Bush did was he created one of the largest marine sanctuaries in the world back in, I want to say 2006, I think it was. Mariana Trench and the islands around Hawaii. Mariana Trench is one of the deepest the deepest cavity, I think, in the world, and the only diver that's gone down that deep in the submarine was the movie producer who did Titanic, James Cameron.
Right.
And anyway, so that he preserved that area, and then some things off the islands in Hawaii, a lot, rather large. And Obama came in with John Kerry and John Podesta and like quadrupled it or made it 10 times bigger. I don't know. That was something recent. And I featured the previous president, President Bush, what he had done, which I thought was a wonderful thing that he did for the oceans. And then I wanted to update the film, and just so happens that Podesta, I was trying to get a hold of John Podesta regarding his efforts with creating this marine sanctuary. And then like a week later, during this time, he tweets about the UFO. So now I'm going, okay, what do I do here? Do I contact him about Pretty Slick and then pop the question on the UFOs?
Yes.
Or do I contact him for both? What do I do?
Yes, you do. The answer is yes, you do. Well, and see, the questions that you raised with Leslie are exactly what any logical person is going to see when they read that tweet. They're going to, they're going to come away with the same thing, which is he is suggesting that he tried and couldn't get it done, and he wanted to. That's exactly. He said that was his biggest disappointment was disclosure in 2014. What else are we supposed to think with that tweet?
Well, I was just on the phone today with someone over at a newspaper in New York, and I've been sitting on I don't know if you know this or not, but I've been sitting on a letter from it's kind of from Larry King, but it's actually written by Steven Spielberg. And I've never really publicly, through the media, released the contents of this letter, of said letter. And I'm actually going to go public with it, I think, in the next week or two. And the reason why is I was asked by Spielberg to not go public with it when I first got it back in July of 2009. Not just because of an endorsement for my film, which would have been a boon for my film, by the way.
Right.
But also, I think there were some other things that he said in the letter that perhaps he didn't want to have to defend right now. So I was asked to kind of hold off, and so I contacted his agent or his publicist, Marvin Levy, and I told him it was my intent. This is fairly recently to go public with the letter, and if I didn't hear back from him, I would assume that was a tacit yes, and I never heard back from him. So, because of these recent tweets and because of Obama and Jimmy Kimmel and these other things that have been happening, I decided that also we're re-releasing I Know What I Saw with a bunch of additional new content on the DVD and all that stuff. But anyway, I thought, well, this might be a good time to kind of go public with it, ride the wave a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, since you're going to do it in 2 weeks,
maybe a week. I don't know. I need to. We're trying to pin it down right now. I'm in talks with these guys. So.
Why? I'm going to ask you what the content is. With you don't have to disclose, but you can certainly tell me the flavor of it. And just saying what you're saying is painting a picture.
Let me put it this way.
But why? But why do it now? That's the question.
Well, because I've been sitting on it for 5 years, coming up on 6 years, actually. Jesus. And it just feels right. It feels like, it feels like there's been a bit of a lull, and there seems to be a resurgence in the last, month or so. And it feels like, all right, now I just decided I'm going to do it.
Well, all of this.
Why do you think I should hold off?
No, I want you to scan it and send it to me. Is what I want you to do. Is it? Was it a letter that came in the mail? Is it signed by Steven?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
wow.
It's in its own handwriting, signed, and I got the original. Yeah, I know it's golden, man.
Oh,
it's the real deal.
All right.
Let's put it this way. He's on the same page as John Podesta. I'll tell you that much.
Well, we've all suspected that Spielberg has been privy to knowledge.
Yes.
It has been a focus of his. Nearly every film that he has released. Well, not every, but he's had a very high percentage of films about E.T. and Contact, and we can go through all the way up to recent times. Do you think that he knows something concrete?
Absolutely, yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I know he does. I could take it a step further. I know he does because I know an executive that's very high up in the entertainment industry that's been very helpful behind the scenes for me, that has met with Steven Spielberg on a couple of occasions where he had told me that Steven has met with some military guys. I guess one in particular who gave him something pretty precious that my contact asked him, said, "Hey, are you ever going to go public with this?" And he said, "No." I think he asked him why not, and he's just not going to do it. But he had a screening, I believe it was it E.T. at the White House? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was E.T.
Yeah. Okay, so it was a screening at the White House is where it happened, and a gentleman in a suit came up and gave him an envelope, and in the envelope was some pretty impressive evidence. And Spielberg said he's not going to ever go public with it.
Man, and he is so unpublic. Okay,
yeah.
He just doesn't do it.
This letter is about to go public.
Do you?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what kind of traction it gets. I mean, I think that if he comes after me for going public with the letter, that's going to be the wrong move. And if he doesn't come after me for the letter, then we'll see what kind of traction the media, see if the media picks it up. I mean, it really depends on if it's the flavor of the week or not. I mean, it'd be great. It'd be great to get it out. I'd love to get him. I'd love to get the media, calling his office and getting comments on him, because an iconic figure in the entertainment industry, someone who's produced so many films on the subject matter, should pipe up and if he really means what he said in the letter, then he should put his neck out a little bit.
Are you nervous? Are you nervous?
Yeah, a little bit. Sure.
Did you say the New York Times? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to do this through the New York Times?
No, I didn't say anything. So,
okay.
I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, I thought I could have sworn you said, because you can do it through us,
Well, I'm already in discussions with someone, contact about it. So let me see where that's going.
Wow,
first.
that's really, really big news. Now,
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's on par with Podesta, I think. Don't you?
Yeah, it might be bigger.
It might be. I don't know. I mean, it's physical. I mean, I got the original, so.
Well, we talk about the population of the world. Well, walk around and ask anybody on the street. Go down Venice Beach, right here in Southern California, and walk up to anybody. Do you know who John Podesta is? No. Do you know who Steven Spielberg is? Well, you know what the answer is.
Good point. That's a very good point, actually.
Yeah.
That's a very, very good point. Yeah.
I think Steve has got a little more street cred.
No, you nailed it on that. No, you got a very good point. Yes. John Podesta's, it got in the news because of, the fact that he was a top aide to President Obama, and he was also, Clinton's former chief of staff. So, but you're right. I mean, in terms of like household name, Steven Spielberg everybody knows Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, that's exciting news. I can't wait to see how that develops. You know what? I'm blown away right now. I'm very rarely speechless, but you caught me, and that's really big news. Well, only it's so important for us when somewhere here I've got notes on all of Spielberg's films, right, where I've analyzed and gone in and checked it. And once I started to put all of this together, and then you look at it in black and white, dude has been trying to get this message across in a big way for decades. This is not a one-off thing for Steven. And when you look at it and you look at his body of work and you look at the content, it merely suggests one thing and one thing only. He knows something, and he got the green light to get the message out. And that's it. And that's how I feel. And if this comes out, it's just going to confirm a lot of things. Let me ask you.
Well, I hope that the media picks up on it, and I hope that they question his office, and I hope that he stands behind it. I really do. I hope that he says, yeah, I think it's time. I really do think it's time, right? I think they just need to come out and tell the public the truth. I mean, I really, really believe that. And I think the public can handle the truth. I think the public's ready for the truth. I think the public knows that the government's full of doggy doo-doo. I really do. And enough's enough, man. It's like, come on. Admit the fact that what you don't know. Admit what you know. I mean, obviously, if they were here to destroy us, we would have known that a long time ago. So why are they hiding this?
One of the things I wanted to talk about and go in depth with is the Zimbabwe incident. And I have seen, parts of the interviews that you have done, with the kids and then them as adults. I don't know. You just said the trailer isn't available right now. I wish it was, but nonetheless, can you take our audience through that? How Mack was involved, and let's go back to the beginning, the very beginning. What happened?
Well, there's a guy, Randall Nickerson, who's been doing a phenomenal job putting together, kind of picking up where John Mack left off. And he was very instrumental in helping us get in touch with the witnesses today, 20 years down the road. But let me back up a little bit because, again, this involves Steven Spielberg. Back in the 90s, when I was producing my first documentary on the subject, there was a woman named Janet Yang that was working for Steven Spielberg and was a very good friend of my father's. Her boyfriend or something that back in the early 90s was involved with a project with my father, and so I got to know her quite well. She'd come up to visit, but I talked to her extensively and trying to get to Steven Spielberg. Thinking I was just naive enough, and I still am actually naive enough to think that I could pull it off, and I never did. But she said, "Well, one thing I will tell you," and this was, I don't know, maybe 95 or 96, is that Steven is very impressed with a case that happened in Africa, in Rua, Zimbabwe. And I hadn't heard of it, really, at that time. I was intrigued and said, I wanted to know more. And she said, well, you should look up. And I think, 95, 96, was that, we didn't have much internet then, did we?
No, we did not.
Yeah, so I remember being very intrigued about this case, but I knew about it because of me trying to get in touch with Spielberg. But she said that he considered that to be one of the best close encounters of the third kind in modern history. So this was a pretty big deal. So, at the time in 1994, basically what happened, there was a school called Ariel School. It was in Rua, Zimbabwe, Africa. There were international students, all with these meticulous British accents, ranging in ages, I think about 8 and 11, 8 and 11, maybe 12, but 8 and 11 for sure. And it was 10:30 in the morning, and roughly 200 school children were outside playing at recess. And there were several unidentified flying objects, disc-shaped land on an adjacent field, and the occupants exited the craft and interacted with the children in a multitude of ways. And the duration of the encounter was 15, 20 minutes. And again, in broad daylight. Well, I didn't really obviously know the extent of you can go online and you can look up Rua, Zimbabwe, and you can see some of the testimony from the school children. Some of that information's on YouTube.
It's RUWA for everybody. That's the incident. It's Rua.
Yeah.
Rua.
Yeah, Rua. So Dr. John Mack, psychiatrist from Harvard University, got a camera crew together and flew out, I think within a week or two of the incident, and documented all these children, got them to draw on the chalkboard, got them to draw on paper, and got them on camera. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal material. I mean, my gosh, these children are clearly telling the truth. I think he said he'd rip up his diploma if these children were lying. And you know, one look and you'll know. These children are not lying. It's absolutely incredible. They all saw the same thing. Well, I didn't really know to the extent of, like, the encounter. I didn't know how close they were to these beings, what the beings actually looked like, you know, other than what I'd seen on the YouTube videos that I didn't have much more to go on. Well, Randall Nickerson very, very kindly put us in touch with, we licensed the material and we helped him out a little bit, put us in touch with these witnesses today, and we were able to raise enough money to fly these witnesses out, and they all came in pairs from all different parts of the world, Canada and England and Australia, and bring them in to a studio in Los Angeles I think about a year ago, and interview them for the first time and bring them all together for the first time since the incident, 20 years. And they were, you know, school teachers, lawyers, and they had, you know, they'd had 20 years to kind of think about it, and they were older and they could articulate their experience much more, as you can imagine. And I didn't realize it, but, you know, this encounter, well, first of all, the encounter occurred, and they almost describe it almost like a slow motion, like time slowed down. There were logs that defined the perimeter of the playground out in Africa, and they said that there was very dangerous snakes and spiders and whatnot in the tall grass, and so they had the mowed area, and then at the end of the mowed areas they had these logs, and then children knew that they were not allowed to go beyond those logs for fear of, you know, wildlife and that sort of thing. Well, they would, as children do, they would, you know, get out on the edge of the perimeter of the playground, and they would skip along the tops of these logs, knowing that they can't go beyond. And these children were, they said they were describing these crafts that landed, and the occupants getting out and about their size and sort of skipping along the logs with them, and then having you know, face-to-face contact, communication through these massive black eyes. They described it like if you've ever been out in the wilderness, in the middle of the wilderness, and you encounter a fairly rare wild species of whatever sort, there's this sort of standoff, this moment of curiosity, where you're staring each other in the eyes with curiosity, not fright or fear or any kind of aggression, and that it was that kind of encounter where they were curious and the children were curious, but it was totally benevolent.
Yeah, and when you see the children interviewed back in 1994, or you know, 20 years ago, and nothing is like a child's description of a story. Of an incident, and you hear the way that they not only described the being, but how they interacted, how it landed. The guy appeared on, this is my memory, I haven't seen the clips in a while, but he appeared on the top of the saucer and then approached them, and you hear them describe this one child after another, and it's crazy as an adult, because you believe everything that these children are saying, and then you have the creature comfort of being able to fast forward and capture them as adults. And when you see the very same children as adults repeating the story, it's absolutely incredible, riveting footage.
It's the most amazing story I've ever heard in my entire life. And when, you know, we were doing the shoot in Los Angeles about a year ago, we had we had people that were catering, and we had sound guys and lighting guys and camera guys that had no interest whatsoever in the UFO field at all, and they were all just completely blown away by this testimony. I mean, they were like, I'd have to say they thought it was one of the most amazing things they'd ever heard, and the level of credibility with the witness was just there's no questioning the authenticity of these witnesses. I mean, they're clearly telling the truth, and these children weren't saying like, oh, aliens came down. They were just telling them, little people, or what they were just describing what they saw. They didn't know what a flying saucer was. They didn't know what a little alien dude was. I mean, they didn't know, It was really cute. There's one little kid that says, he's being interviewed and says, well, how big were they? Oh, about my height, little guy. He's like 4 feet tall. About my height.
Was that the one of them said he had long hair?
Yeah, there was a little girl, I think, Liesel or something, that described black hair or something. That they were all skin tight black suits that they were wearing. Like they described them as almost like a scuba diving suit, a bodysuit, skin tight. But it's just so many of them, And what I learned actually through thanks to this guy Randall Nickerson, who's done a lot more research into not just the children, but the town itself. He'd taken a couple of trips there. And he also interviewed a guy named Mr. Leach, I believe his name was. He was a BBC correspondent. Was that the UFOs were actually sighted over the area over a 2-day period. It wasn't just the one landing and then left. They were spotted over the airport. Apparently they obstructed incoming flights. They were picked up on radar. And I've even listened to an interview with the BBC correspondent that was down there at the time, reading a letter from one of the locals that there's 20 seconds of video footage of one of the craft. So these are all things, obviously, clearly that we'll mention and we want to look into.
How much footage did Mack shoot?
Oh, hours, man, hours.
And you had to cut back. Obviously, you had to cut back. How much of it?
We have all of it in our possession, but we only licensed, I think, 5 or 10 minutes of it. That's all we need, really.
Right.
For us to choose from. But I mean, there's hours of footage.
Is there part of it that you have your time constraints, but is there something that you wish that you could also include, but you couldn't? And could you tell me about that?
Well, the one thing we didn't include on the site is this other material, like, the BBC correspondent. I mean, that really bolsters the case for these children. I mean, the children were describing what it was like when the adults came on board and how they felt used. Now, as adults, they look back and they say they felt kind of used. They were never talked with, how to process this event in any way. The adults came in, the media came in and extracted this material from the children, but never gave them any guidance or any help, dealing with this event. I think most of the witnesses that we flew in to this day don't discuss it with anyone. And one of the women, who's a school teacher, said, I hadn't even told my husband yet. And it had been, she'd been married to him when she had a couple kids for several years, 5 years or plus. So, it's such a significant and made obviously indelible impressions on these children that they're walking around today with this incredible information and not really having. How do you process something like that, especially at that age?
And what about, I know you must have thought about this, I do. When I think about Ruwa, I also think about Westboro in Australia and what happened there. Almost the same situation. It's an elementary school. It's children. It is Westboro. Is it Westboro? What is it?
Yeah, I've only known about it because someone was telling me that I need to look into it. Into that one. So but there's another case that was relatively similar, I think, that happened in the 60s in France. that people are offering us access to some of those witnesses. I don't know if we'll incorporate that into 701 or not at this point, but I don't know. But I do know that there was a case in Africa and France that was relatively similar to the Rua case. But I don't know enough about either one of them to say anything worthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the one in Australia is it's a little bit tough to find info on. There's one excellent documentary that was done in Australia on it. It's the same situation. The children as adults are being interviewed and covering, but it's nearly identical in how it happened. In the middle of the day, it's elementary school students witness. They run outside, they see it, they see this thing in the field next to the school. It takes off, and then I think it lands again in town, a few miles away in the center of town on a street, then takes off and disappears. And there were witnesses at two different locations, some of them government employees. But it's very, very strikingly similar. The one in Australia, if I am correct, was in the late 60s. Is what I'm feeling here, if my memory's right. I want to say it was in the late 60s. It might have been the early 70s. But very, very, very similar in the two cases. And you should look into it.
No, I definitely no, I will. I mean, we've had our hands full with the case. I have a list.
Lynn,
I need.
Check this out. Check this. This is the beauty of technology and why you need to get Twitter. Right now, live from Australia. Lynn from Australia says, it's Westall, Jimmy. It's Westall, Westall, Westall. I said Westboro. Westall.
Okay.
Yeah, check it out. I want to, let me address...
What year is that? What year was it?
It's 1966.
1966, okay.
There you go.
It's okay.
That's the beauty of Twitter, man, right there.
Did anybody film any of the witnesses after the fact?
Yes, and not only that, one of the crazy things is it was covered by the local news there, and all of the footage from the original witnesses that day has been, I believe it was taken over and confiscated by the Australian government. I believe that footage is no longer available. Some of it is out there, though, and it's been leaked. And all of the newspaper articles and all of the media coverage is still available, and it's also covered. So, yeah.
Isn't it amazing how much evidence there is? I mean, I tell you what, man, there's so many cases. There's so many cases, so little time, but... You look at one case, like I've looked pretty extensively into the Socorro, New Mexico case, and it's just shocking at how much solid evidence there is on that case alone. And that was, still during the time when Project Blue Book was alive, and Hynek's comments and all that. That one case alone is enough, in my opinion, to prove that we're being visited. But there are like hundreds and hundreds of those cases.
Yeah, it's
amazing to me.
When you if I was on Larry King and here you are, you've been on there so many times, all good stuff. I've watched it all. But if I was on Larry King and I had some Yahoo next to me, skeptic, right? You know how they did it there at CNN. You were rolling that rock uphill, and but if I had some guy next to me and he whips out the inevitable statement, "Where's the proof?" I'm going to fire back and go, dude, where's the proof that they haven't been here? I've got all the proof in the world. I have videos, I have eyewitness testimony, I have photographs, I have radar, I have military experts, military witnesses. I have hundreds of thousands.
He's going to say it's all anecdotal.
Yeah, just show me the proof they haven't been here, young man. You're absolutely right.
I always refer to it as the preponderance of evidence. It's no one particular, case. But when you put them all together, I mean, look at Rendlesham, look at Phoenix, look at Socorro back in the... I mean, that's just a phenomenal... Socorro case is phenomenal. There were footprints. We have diagrams of the footprints of the creatures, of these beings.
One of the things about Socorro that
came from the Air Force.
Yes. One of the things about Socorro that freaks me out is the tourists that were driving through, and they stopped at a gas station and they see the egg
thing almost
fly
missed the top of his car.
Right. And they turn around, they're like, dudes, man, what kind of city do you guys have here? You got eggs flying around, and so you know what I mean? And it's stuff like that. It just piles on and piles on and piles on, and you just have to ask, what more do you need? I understand the flying saucer on the White House lawn thing, the argument, why hasn't that happened? Look, if E.T. was at all concerned with us, truly concerned, and wanted to teach us something, he would come down on the White House lawn and teach us. But you know what? We just may be a little bit too dumb.
We could be like ants to them. They have their own agenda, and we have nothing to do with it. I mean, who knows what's going on? I actually had the opportunity to meet with Jacques Vallee very briefly not too long ago. Jacques Vallee is very, I really feel like he has had access to the higher-ups to probably know more than anybody else that I could certainly get access to what's going on.
I think
he told me.
I think he's an alien.
Yeah.
I think he's an alien. Look at his eyes. He's an alien.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he told me something really interesting though. He's like, James, I can't talk about it anymore. I said, you don't want to talk about it, or you can't talk about it? He said, I can't talk about it. I don't know what exactly he meant by that, but that's what he said. And then I said, well, just the position that we're taking is that the secrecy is more based on what the government doesn't know. He said that's exactly it. He said it's not a question of what the government knows, it's more of a question of what they don't know. In other words, once they open up Pandora's box, good luck. I mean, for them to admit, hey, look, there are structured craft of unknown origin whizzing around with impunity in our airspace. We don't know where they come from, what they want, why they're here. It's going to open up it's going to be a deluge of. Could you imagine if they said that?
Yeah, and look at that. Look what you just said, though. 6 degrees of separation. Jacques Vallee and Spielberg. Look at that connection right there. Think about that, and it's
yeah, absolutely. And think about the fact that Steven Spielberg had Dr. Hynek in featured as a little cameo appearance in Close Encounters.
Coincidence?
I mean, what was?
Coincidence?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, what was he trying to say there? And I've got an interview that was done in '79 of Dr. Hynek that someone very kindly gave to us to use in segments of it to use in. But I have the raw, uncut version of it, and in it, Hynek says, "Well, I don't mind throwing moderation to the wind here." He said, something. Yeah, he said that all the files from Project Blue Book, not all of them, but a lot of the files from Project Blue Book were used, even down to Dreyfus's face being burnt in the Close Encounters, but those were all based on testimonies, reports from Project Blue Book files, and even down to the description of the beings.
Do you think, James, right now, with Clinton on Kimmel, Obama on Kimmel, Podesta with his tweet, you about to drop the bomb of the Spielberg letter, is there something going on? Do you think we're at the edge of something pretty dramatic? Do you feel it in the air?
I really don't know. I'd like to say yes, but I don't know, because we've said that so many times in the past. And in 2007 and 2008 was a very exciting period. 06, 07, 08, there was this, we're getting a lot of news of governments like France and England and other countries that were releasing all their UFO files. Of course, they didn't release all of it, but they released some of it. That was a good start. We had former Governor Fife Simonton's got good relations with Clinton. We had a lot of news coverage. We had all the CNN stuff we were doing. We got the National Press Club. I mean, things were really moving in that direction. It was very exciting, and you didn't know how far it was going to go, and it sort of fizzled out a little bit. And now you've got what appears to be another slight resurgence of interest and media attention I think what it really boils down to, and this is just my opinion, it's going to take an informed public to rattle the cage of their representatives to push for congressional hearings. I really don't, that, and the congressional hearings are going to be tricky as well, to bring in the witnesses, but because I don't think Congress is going to just come up with those witnesses. But to have congressional hearings that are public and that are on the record for the American people, because I don't think that the president, whoever that may be at that time, knows anything more than Joe Public. I mean, obviously, someone like Ford or Carter or Clinton will tell you that they made inquiries but got the runaround, and maybe Reagan did it as well. I mean, he apparently had a couple of UFO sightings. I'd like to get to Nancy, but I don't see it like preparing for disclosure. When people say disclosure is right around the corner, I don't see it that way. I see it more like, look, we need to produce a film that gets a large audience, a global audience, something that's released in theaters, something like a Fair Night 9/11 on UFOs, that triggers enough activity to pressure our representatives to really push for congressional hearings. That's how I see it. And I handed out copies of Out of the Blue to each and every member of the House. That's 435 people, and I personally addressed each chief of staff and sent out copies. And I did ask. I said, what's it going to take for you guys to push? They said, we're not going to do it on our own. I mean, that's just going to jeopardize our position. We'd have to have our constituents, and enough of them, really pushing for this. So that's the way I see it going down. And what is it going to take? I mean, I don't know, maybe a film like 701, hopefully we get it done and we do it right, that could trigger that kind of action. But I don't see the president coming forward and just disclosing. I don't think the president has anything to disclose.
When you 701,
there might be a lot of people out there that disagree with me. That's just my opinion on it.
Well, 701, for everybody out there, the reason why it's called 701, there were 701 cases in Project Blue Book that were, what's the best way to put it?
There were 12,618 cases investigated by the United States Air Force from 1947 to 1969, out of which 701, no matter how hard the Air Force tried, remained unexplained and remain unexplained to this day.
How did you determine which ones to use for the film 701?
It's not so much, although we are featuring a few cases as part of Project Blue Book, it was more what that number symbolizes, because
sure.
we've always said, there's a core percentage of UFO encounters that defy a terrestrial explanation. There's a core percent that no matter how hard one tries, 5 or 10% of cases that truly cannot be explained. And that 701 number is what that core symbolizes, and that's what those cases symbolize. So that's why we're using it, although we will be featuring some cases from Project Blue Book. We actually interviewed, there was a guy, Colonel Coleman. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. Colonel Coleman was a public relations officer for the Air Force during the production in the 70s of UFOs Past, Present, or Future. That was a Bob Emenegger and Alan Sandler production.
One of my if you go, I read the book that Emenegger wrote on that. If you go and investigate that story about that documentary, that in UFO lore and ufology, that is one of the greatest investigations you can do as a student of this, of somebody that wants to learn. Go and check it out. Just Google Emenegger and look at at what was involved in the story, not only leading up to the documentary, but then after it was done. It's a tremendous story that people don't really know much about today.
Well, I was following a deathbed statement made by this guy named Colonel Weinbrenner in Texas not too long ago, just a few years ago. I think Joyner and maybe Bruce Maccabee or someone like that had done a bit of follow-up investigations, which led to Bob Emenegger. And basically what the story is that, and this is factual, what I'm telling you now, is that Bob Emenegger and Alan Sandler, during the production of UFOs Past, Present, and Future, had unprecedented access and cooperation by the United States Air Force to produce this film on UFOs. And, you know, they were going in underground at the Cheyenne Mountain Range. They were getting access to Holloman Air Force Base, to archives like Pentagon. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, watch the movie. You'll see a former Project Blue Book people. You'll see Hynek. You'll see Bob Friend, Colonel Bob Friend, and Quintanilla, and a host of others that will go on the record on camera during the production. It was almost like they were testing the waters to disclose a little bit of the UFO reality and just kind of gauge the public response.
And they had planned, you're leaving one key thing out that freaked me out. They had planned like a city-by-city rock concert tour, where they were going to have an exhibition of, going across the country, showing this film, showing the Holloman Air Force Base stuff, and disclosure, with other things, a Disney-like production that was going to go city to city, coinciding with the film's release.
Well, what happened is that there was a guy at an Air Force base, and I'm trying to remember his name. Just bear with me for a moment here. That was given the green light from Colonel Coleman, who was based at the time at the Pentagon, who used to be he was a public relations officer, but he used to be a spokesman for the Air Force during Project Blue Book times as well. His name's Colonel William Coleman. He had one of the most incredible UFO encounters I've ever heard, and I, thank God, got to him just before he died on camera for 701, and his story is just mind-boggling, this encounter they had while piloting a B-25 over Alabama in 1955, and that's a side story, but suffice to say, a very incredible close encounter with a flying saucer that lasted several minutes, and with multiple eyewitnesses in the cockpit, some of whom were engineers for Lockheed Martin and Allison Motors. But this guy who was working at the time at an Air Force base in California, and doggone it, I'm frustrated right now because I can't remember his name, but he basically said, "Hey, I've been given the green light from Colonel Coleman to give you guys basically unfettered access to whatever you want during this production. By the way, I happen to have some film footage that just came in from Holloman of a landing of a flying saucer." And this footage was dangled like a carrot in front of them to be used in the film, and there was other material that was offered to them as well. Then you'll see, if you watch the documentary, you'll see that they put it in every word was combed through by the Air Force before this film was to be released, and they put it in a very interesting way. If you watch the movie, they'll say, this event, it was an event that happened, I think, in the early 60s. They don't pinpoint a date, that may have already happened or might happen in the near future. And it's a landing event where a flying saucer lands unknowingly at Holloman Air Force Base, and that the occupants exit the vehicle and interact with the base commanders. Sounds completely outrageous, I know. But I thought this when I first started looking into it. But I spent some time with Alan Sandler, and I spent some time with Bob Emenegger, and a fairly significant amount of time, I might add, as well as researching at length the Socorro, New Mexico landing case, which coincidentally is just a stone's throw from Holloman Air Force Base, White Sands testing range. So I came across all kinds of additional articles. There was a woman named Coral Lorenzen that wrote, I think it was in the UFO Bulletin, that talked about some military men that had, right around the time of Socorro, which had been in the early 60s, 64, a landing at Holloman. And it sounds outrageous, but when you look at the landing at Socorro and the fact the occupants got out, just a stone's throw away, if they'd landed and the occupants gotten out, they had cameras at Holloman. Maybe they really did film a UFO landing at Holloman Air Force Base. Maybe this film footage actually did exist.
Well, didn't Bob actually see the footage?
No, Bob didn't see it, but Alan did, and that just came out.
Okay.
And I talked to Alan about it. And this kind of, there's so much to the story. I'm trying to give you guys the truncated version. I keep slowing down because I don't know where to stop and where. I mean, if I told you every aspect of it, we'd be on the phone for 8 hours. So I'm trying to be selective in what I'm recounting to you guys.
It's one of my favorite subjects. This is, I have to tell you, when I was a kid, and I first, this is a long, long time ago. When I was a kid, and I stumbled across this book, and I started to research this. It was one of the craziest stories. You're exactly right. I mean, it is fascinating when you think about this. And not only that, this is you skipped past this, James. The Air Force dangled that footage with Edgar because they promise him that he could use the footage in the documentary, right?
Yes, they did. Yes, but here's the interesting thing. Doggone it, I'm really frustrated that I can't remember the name of this. He was involved with the video and archives for an Air Force base in California, and I'm so sorry that I can't remember the name of it right now, but it will come to me. But basically, Alan Sandler saw this footage. Okay, he was showing the footage. If you go to Facebook and you go to Facebook page for Bob Edgar, Bob Edgar actually has a video clip of the gentleman that had the footage in his possession at this Air Force base in California, and you can watch the clip on Bob Edgar's Facebook page. But basically, what happened was this guy, thinking that that he didn't have to hide anything, and this footage had just come in from home and from processing, that he could share it with these guys, and he did. He shared it with Alan Sandler, who's Edgar's partner. I don't know why, for some reason, Edgar wasn't showing the footage, and it wasn't like a conspiracy or anything. It's just that Edgar wasn't available that day or something. But Alan did.
And it was a whole spy versus spy thing going on too. He had to go. They promised he could see it. There was a delay. Then he had to go somewhere else. There was another delay, and I think that was part of the reason why Bob didn't get to see it. I thought that Bob did. I thought it was the other way around. But anyway.
No, Bob didn't see it. Alan did. But
Alan did.
What happened was is that he was shown the footage, and then the very next morning, some guys came in suits and questioned both Alan and this other gentleman, which I'm just completely flooring on getting his name. But it will at some point come to me. And basically told them, took the footage and told them never to talk about it again. And so Alan didn't even tell Bob until like 40 years later, because when I was talking to Alan, this whole subject came up, and that's when Alan told me. And I thought Alan was talking about something else, but Alan clearly was showing the footage.
How long was the footage? What did Alan tell you?
Paul Shartle, the guy.
Yeah, Paul Shartle. Yes.
Paul Shartle showed the footage to Alan Sandler. Yes. And I talked to Alan Sandler about it, and then I have video footage of Paul Shartle talking about the footage that was in his possession that he got from Holloman. So if you go to Edgar's wall on Facebook, you'll see the video there. It's featured. I actually have it on my wall, too, somewhere. So I talked to Alan, and as I do with military witnesses and civilian witnesses, when I want to memorize something, I will close my eyes and have them describe it to me. And then I will recreate it, and I'll ask for certain details that are missing, because I'm relying solely on their testimony as to recreating with the best, most possibly accurate description imaginable, so I can relive what they're experiencing. So that's what I do. So I did it with Alan. I did it actually with Travis Walton as well, and talking about his encounter, with seeing the beams and all that stuff when he came to. But anyway, Alan said that the object was filmed, I believe he might have said from 2 camera angles, but certainly one good camera angle, and the camera was on a tripod, which would indicate as a cameraman that they were anticipating this thing coming in. Maybe they saw it at a distance, I don't know. But they scrambled jets, F-86 fighter jets, I believe they were F-86, I don't know for sure, over the base, broad daylight. There were 2 or 3 discs that were coming in at a significant altitude, and 2 peeled away, and then 1 came down onto the base, and they were escorted. Just going on what Alan told me, they were escorted by military jets, and then 1 came down, and as it did, it wobbled down, kind of like you would imagine a feather from a bird coming down, being dropped. It kind of wobbled and oscillated and just made its way down. Alan said almost like it was kind of in trouble a little bit, but I don't know, maybe a boat floating on the surface of rough seas.
Interesting description.
Yeah, and it kind of wobbled its way down, wobbled, and he said just like in the sci-fi film, 3 pods appear, just come out of nothing, and it lands. And then again, he said, like in a sci-fi movie, a seamless door opens and stairs drop down, and out came the first 2 beings, which I didn't get a really good description on, but the third being, he said, had a head regalia, kind of like a Egyptian, almost like beads, hair beaded. Very skin-tight suit with a symbol of some sort on the suit where the chest is, on the chest, on one side. A tight-fitting suit. I think he said around 5 feet tall. Very large nose, slit for a mouth. Eyes were like cat eyes, really big, but had a vertical pupil, like a cat would be.
Right.
And his hair regalia, very large nose, no chin, and a slit for a mouth, and then had what appeared to be some sort of device, perhaps it was a communication device, he didn't know, that they would talk into or hold above in front of their mouths. I'm just telling you again what Alan told me. I'm not saying this happened or it didn't happen. This is what he told me. The footage shows the third being coming out of the craft, and some base commanders pulled up, and they met with the 2 others that initially exited the door stood on either side of the plank, and then the third one came out like he was like the boss or something, and he was met with men in uniform, and they got into a vehicle and drove off, and then the film footage ended with the UFO sitting on the tarmac, and that's where it ended.
Unbelievable.
So now Alan was convinced, this is what he told me, he was convinced that it was our technology and it was our spaceship. But when I posed the question, on camera I might add, both to Bob Friend, who was a colonel, who was head of Project Blue Book at one point, as well as Colonel Coleman, who's the one that gave him unfettered access at the time when he was public relations officer for the Air Force, Pentagon. There's no way we ever had that technology. We do not have that technology. We did not have that technology. So that would indicate that the footage is either, Alan is absolutely convinced that the footage is authentic. There's no question in his mind.
We are, James, if you can hear me, we're losing you. Let's take a quick break and let's reset the phone lines. This is Fade to Black. James, I'm going to call you right back. Well, let's reset the phone lines. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We're talking with James Fox. We will be back right after this. Stay with us.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
Hi, Ray Hobbs here with KGRA. Spring is just around the corner here in Northwest Arkansas, and that means it's almost time for the 28th Annual Ozark Mountain UFO Conference, continuing a time-honored tradition of bringing thought-provoking information about other worlds around us. Join me and the KGRA crew April 10th through the 12th in beautiful Eureka Springs, Arkansas, for another great lineup of speakers, including investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, the National UFO Reporting Center's Peter Davenport, returning to Ozark as this year's keynote speaker, author and American historian Richard Dolan, and many more. The KGRA will be there broadcasting live all weekend. Register and reserve your seating early and pick up a free membership from the KGRA and Ozark Mountain Publishing. Visit www.ozarkufoconference.com for tickets and information. That's ozarkufoconference.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network. KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We're talking with director James Fox tonight. James, it's funny. Twitter's on fire. The NSA is breaking in. Oh, man. It's all, whenever you're at critical mass, man, it's so funny on this show. It's right at that moment, and we're talking about something like Holloman and Edgar and Alan. It's just so funny. You just started to break up and break. It's just funny. It's just the way that it goes. I don't know why. I really don't. Hey, I want to shift gears a little bit. I'm backed up. We have a big interested audience, and Twitter's been on fire. So let's take the time here to get some of these questions in. First question, and I'm just going. I'm going to go backwards here. Do you believe that Valiant Thor was a real guy?
I don't. Stranger in Pentagon. It was Dr. Frank Strange's. I say to this one that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I've seen photographs of what people tell me is Val Thor, but when you say that there's an alien disguised as a human that hasn't aged in 50 plus years, that was operating in the Pentagon, who had a UFO hovering over, I think it was Mono Lake. I'm not sure if it was Mono Lake. I think it was Mono Lake. Those are some pretty fantastic claims. I mean, you better back that up with some pretty fantastic evidence. I mean, so are you asking me whether I believe in Val Thor as being an alien walking among us? I always said never say never, so I leave the door open slightly. But I'm highly skeptical.
Why did Chasing Aliens get canceled?
Well,
the question's a little more involved than that. I'm a big fan of Chasing Aliens, and it goes on and on. But What happened?
It never, we were approached to do something that was took a slightly more serious tone. Ben held one of the guys who's geologist and astronomer and radiation specialist had a top secret clearance actually out of Area 51 of all places, and we were approached with the idea that we're going to actually use the application of science for National Geographic for a television show that would cater to a younger audience, but it would also have some serious research. And if you saw what was left on the edit room floor, you'd really know it was a wonderful opportunity missed. We knew that we wanted to have it entertaining and spice things up a little bit, out poking around at different military bases and stuff at night, but they just took it too far. And they left a lot of really wonderful content. I mean, you had to be there to see the content that we got. We had a photographer that was, bar none, one of the best photographers. We had a $300,000 camera lens. We were getting shots that you could only dream about. I mean, it was beautiful, and the content was beautiful. And unfortunately, it was so dumbed down that both Ben and myself really ended up speaking out a little bit about it, which it got picked up on, I think, the Huffington Post. And the executives got really upset. I think Ben said he wasn't going to go back no matter what happened. I was kind of on the fence. Things would have to change for the following season. But people have expectations, I think, in the UFO community of a certain caliber or a certain treatment to the field, and they just violated all that stuff. So it was an unfortunate chain of events, and it was fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a good time. I got to meet some fascinating people. I got to get paid to go travel around the world and meet with UFO witnesses. But it was unfortunate that the end result was what it was, because it really could have been so much better if they would have just put a little less of the night investigations and more of the good content. I think we would have had a much more successful and much more fun production.
There was one scene that sticks out for me. There was one shot, and I think it was with Ryder looking up, and that circular UFO. It looked saucer-ish. It was round, popped up in the clouds and lit up for a second. Tell me about that. I mean, that was extraordinary. Right place at the right time. Boom! There it was. What happened? We really did go out under the night sky. I mean, we had some brutal nights. We were producing a lot of the stuff in the winter, and we really were under the night sky for hours and hours. It was pretty brutal working conditions. I mean, my God, I remember thinking, Jesus, is this really how they have to do it? I mean, you're under such a strict shooting schedule. And she just happened to capture something, and we were all baffled. Again, like we should have given more resources towards having that analyzed, because I thought that was very impressive. But it was just like used as a really good visual, but we never really had a good analyst break it down as to what that possibly was, because it was a pretty impressive piece of video, don't you think? It freaked me out. That's you wait for an entire season sometimes with some TV shows for a moment like that, and boom, it happened. And I rewound that scene many times and watched it over and over again, and I have no clue what that was. I mean, it didn't look like anything that was ours, that's for sure.
No, nobody did. But we had this guy named David West, who is a seasoned photographer, and he had this. I want to say I thought it was a $100,000 lens, but apparently it was a $300,000 lens. But this lens, you had to have special insurance, and this thing was colossal. It had its own tripod. It was huge. It had a tracking thing on it, and he filmed a couple of nights. I mean, this is over a several-month period, and we were under the night sky 4 or 5 nights out of the week. He filmed a couple things that were really, really intriguing. He filmed the International Space Station from a telescope lens that you saw it closer than you've ever seen, the shots of the moon. None of these things ended up in the episodes. We had interviews with military officers. We had interviews with astronauts that were very minimized, that was just fascinating stuff. That it was entertaining, it was fun, but having experienced it and realized what ended up on the edit room floor was very unfortunate, because we had a really great opportunity. Because me, I mean, I'm into getting to the bottom of the phenomenon, and I don't mind having a good time in the process. But with millions of dollars at your disposal, we could have really done some amazing stuff. Continued to do some amazing stuff. So it was unfortunate that the executives at Nat Geo, they really couldn't have cared less one way or the other whether UFOs were real. To them, it was just about ratings and that sort of thing. Entertainment ratings.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you're not doing that, because now you can focus on 701. I'm serious.
Yeah, no, and that's my dream. 701's my dream project. That's what I live for. I mean, it's what really matters. I mean, it's like, take something like I Know What I Saw. And by the way, to the listeners out there, you can watch it for free now. It's got some commercials, but it's on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/UFO TV, you guys can watch it. And if you can imagine taking that and adding some really great new cases and putting new higher production values on there, that's pretty much where we're going to be at with 701. So it's very exciting, and it's exactly what I want to be doing. Do you know what I mean? I wish that we would have had the budget of National Geographic. You took the amount of money they spent on that production, from producing it to promoting it. My God, I could have done, so much more.
This comes in from Les. He says, what was the UFO experience that changed James's paradigm and made him do what he's doing today?
That's a good question. I had a sighting when I was 19 with a girlfriend at the time, Lisa, and had I been alone, I probably would have just ridden it off and just as though it never happened. But I was with someone else, and we both did see it. And the interesting thing is that when we were looking at it at the bedroom window, she said to me, "What the bleep is that?" And I said, "I don't know but whatever it is, I get the impression it knows we're looking at it." And she said she felt the same thing. And so the next morning, we never discussed it again. We discussed it that night with my sister. Came home a little later, about 2 a.m. We discussed it with her, but I never talked about it. And all these years later, it's really funny, actually. I bumped into Lisa years later. She's got a husband and a daughter, and she said, "Isn't it crazy that we had that sighting together and you ended up making UFO films?" I said,
"Well, what did you see? What did you see?"
We saw an egg. I would say it looked like about the size of. I'm guesstimating here. It looked like the size of a Volkswagen Bug, old one. The old ones. It was out the bedroom window, fairly large window, probably 3 feet by 4 feet size bedroom glass window. And it was probably a little taller than a telephone pole. I would say maybe, it looked like it was about 20 feet higher than a telephone pole, moving very slowly. And it was kind of pulsating a little bit, like it was breathing or something, like it was just kind of pulsing. I don't know how to describe it. You ever see your cell phone when it's charging, that light kind of pulses a little bit?
Sure,
so that's what it looked like. It was a whitish yellow, and it was an orb, and it was, I think when we looked out the window, I think I had to squint a little bit because it was kind of lighting our faces up a little bit, but that was all we saw, and she got freaked. We both did actually. We got freaked out, and she said, "Close the blinds." So I leapt out of bed and I ripped the blinds off the wall. They hit the floor. And I remember fumbling around on the ground trying to put the blinds back up again, and I did. And then we clutched each other for what seemed like maybe 5 minutes, and then I wonder if it's still there. And I opened the blinds, and it was gone, and that was it. We spoke about it. I think my sister came home from a concert in San Francisco a little bit after that. And then the next morning, I never spoke about it ever again. I don't think I spoke about it for 15 years.
It's weird how that works. You know, we all do the same thing. I did the same thing. I've done the same thing a few times, and it's funny how you don't want to talk about it. But were you pursuing a film career at that time, or were you working with your dad?
No, I wasn't filming a film. I mean, I wasn't. Somebody keeps calling me over and over. I'm so sorry. I just wish this person would go away. Is it interrupting our phone conversation here?
It's bleeping out. It's probably Tracy, and he's mad that he's not on this show with you.
No, but I had no interest. As a matter of fact, we had a really good family friend at the time who ended up helping fund part of I Know What I Saw. But who would come over, and we'd have these big dinner parties, and he would describe, every now and again he would tell his UFO story. And when I was a teenager, I was 14, 15, 16, I really, really didn't care at all about this story, and it didn't excite me, it didn't intrigue me, it was just nothing, it meant nothing to me. But after my sighting, I think I actually, when I started investigating UFOs a little bit, I remember thinking to myself, God, I'd like to know more about my buddy's sighting, because he had a pretty good sighting of an orb that happened while piloting an aircraft. And of course I brought it up with him, so look, I don't know if my sighting has, first of all, it has nothing to do with my position on UFOs today, but perhaps it triggered some sort of curiosity, underlying curiosity that was that came out in ways that I didn't even know. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep. And so when you fast forward up to Out of the Blue, something happened there too as well. Something made you want to make that film. What happened then?
Well, I remember. I actually, what happened was I did a film before that called 50 Years of Denial, UFOs, 50 Years of Denial. And when I finished that, when I actually first said that I was going to produce that film, when my father was so opposed to the whole thought of me doing that. I mean, he just couldn't. He was actually having members of the family. I was born in England, and I had lots of family members that migrated to France, and they were all sending me letters. Oh, reconsider. What are you doing? Your father's very concerned. This type of thing. And I think that propelled me even further. And I produced that first film, which I sold to Discovery Channel, called UFOs 50 Years of Denial. We talked a little bit about Area 51. We talked about Roswell. I got footage from Jesse Marcel Sr. And it was a good little piece. It was decent, nothing terribly exciting. I think it produced it in 95, 96, 97, something like this. I think it came out in 98, because I was at the 50-year anniversary for the Roswell event in 97. So I think the film came out in 98 on Discovery Channel, or Learning Channel. But I had no intentions to do another film ever again. And a gentleman contacted me. If you want to hear the story, I'll tell you how
Yes.
it happened. So I got contacted by a gentleman in Russia, and he said that he wanted. And at the time, there was a .com guy named Joe Firmage. Joe Firmage was head of a company that was doing incredibly well. It was on Fortune 500 companies. He was 28 years old. I think he was worth, on paper, the better part of $1 billion. He said he had an epiphany, and he wanted to pursue his belief in UFOs and alternative energy and all this stuff, and he helped promote my film. I remember Discovery Channel saying, who is this guy, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars promoting your film? He bought full color page ads in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, and mentioning my film in them, and really strange. And I remember Discovery Channel saying, who is this guy spending all this money, spending 4 times the amount of what we just paid you for to promote it,
Right.
And I guess it got the attention of a researcher in Russia, because this guy invited me to Russia, and actually what he said was, we'd like to broadcast your film in Russia, yet we have no money. But what I can offer you is access to witnesses. So long story short, I ended up taking this guy up on his offer of meeting with military officials in Russia, Star City, Russia. In exchange, he would organize this whole thing for me. In exchange, I would give them rights to broadcast my film. So I took the chance and went for it, and I suddenly found myself in Russia with, meeting with active military generals. They're all in out of the blue if you watch it, and then when I came home, I'd been trying to get an interview with Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper, and suddenly I had a green light on that. So I found myself interviewing Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper and all these amazing witnesses in Russia, and I said, well, I'm going to have to do something with this material. I guess I'm doing another UFO film. And that was the birth of Out of the Blue, and it took me the first cut was 3 years, and then or 4 years, and the other cut was 5 years, and then the version that's out now was an additional 2 years to that, so 7 years. But that was pretty much it, and that's, I think my father kind of came around when I brought him on the interview with Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper.
With you want to take a couple quick phone calls really quick as we wrap this up?
No, of course, absolutely, no problem at all.
Let's take some phone calls. Let's open up the lines. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. We are talking with director James Fox. James, when you look at with you as we wait for the phone calls to come in, you have so much evidence that is in front of you. There's more than you can ever investigate. But if you were going to have to go to federal court and present some evidence, what's the one piece, if you were allowed one piece of evidence to hit a judge with, what is it that you would bring forward?
That's a very good question. That is a very, very good question. Would it be evidence? Would it be testimony? I would probably have to say the McMinnville, Oregon Trent photographs from 1950.
Wow.
I would because you've got multiple eyewitnesses and you have multiple photographs taken with a filmed camera in 1950 in broad daylight with points of reference and two very credible witnesses. It's a really solid case, and the photographs have been analyzed to death. They've been analyzed in the part of the Condon Committee. They've been analyzed by Dr. Bruce Maccabee and a handful of other people, and they're really, really good. I mean, have you seen them in McMinnville? Sorry.
Oh, they're some of my favorites.
They're really, really good, and the witnesses are great. I mean, you listen to Paul Trent and his wife, and you just there's no question that these people are telling the truth.
What about Rex Heflin?
Love it. That's another great case. I actually got to hold the original Polaroids in my hand, okay? And remember, with a Polaroid, you're going, okay, this piece of paper was roughly, 30, 60, 100 feet away from a flying saucer. I mean, it was incredible. Those photographs are really, really solid and had, again, been analyzed to death.
Where did you, I'm gonna confirm your story right now. Where were those photographs? How did you?
Well, I can't tell you where they exactly are today, but I can say that we interviewed a woman that wrote a book about James McDonald.
We're talking about the same person.
Yes.
She said to me, she goes, and I'm going to quote her, "Jimmy, you want to see the pictures?" And I said, "Yeah." "Well, I have them. They're in a box in my house." I was like, "No way." She
definitely has them. I did an extensive interview with her for 701. Sorry, I'm keeping my voice down a little bit because my son's sleeping in another room and I don't want to wake him up.
Sure.
But I did an extensive interview with her as part of 701, and I said, maybe, and you might consider if it's possible, maybe you could make the photographs.
When she was on the show, and I'm not kidding. You should go back and listen to this. At one point,
Ann Druffel.
Yeah, Ann Druffel. At one, well, I didn't want to say her name, but anyway, at one
point.
God,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Well,
I figured if she was on your show, that it was okay to say her name.
Yeah, and she's the best too. She is the best. So anyway, she's on the show, and check this out. She goes, "Jimmy, hold on. The gas company's at the door. She puts down the phone. She goes and answers the door. There was a problem with the gas lines next door at the neighbor's house, right? And so they had to come over and turn on and off her gas. This is all during the interview. I just cranked up the phone, and we're listening to her talk to. Then she comes back. Okay, all right, I'm back. I'm like, man, that was Ann Ruffle. You are the best. I'm sorry about that, Jimmy. Let's grab a quick call. Let's go to the first one here. It's Dino. Hi, Dino. Say hi to James Fox. How are you tonight?
Oh, good evening. Good evening. You cut off. How are you doing, James?
Hey, good evening. Thanks for calling.
I just want to say I respect your work. You do great stuff. I would really hope that if disclosure came, you would be one of the first people they would contact to interview some alien visitors. What I wonder about, and I want to ask you, with all these astronauts that have hinted about what they know, what do you think it is? I mean, do you think they're being held off? I mean, why does Edgar Mitchell, is it because of his age? He doesn't seem to appear in public anymore. And I guess the second part of my question is, do you really believe that Spielberg had all this symbolism and that he filmed a fake moon landing?
Well, okay, let's see. Going back to Dr. Edgar Mitchell. Dr. Edgar Mitchell was raised in Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah.
I think he's been a proponent of UFOs because of his exposure early on. When he became a very public figure, he would go back to Roswell and he had access to all these witnesses and family friends and farmers that would share, ranchers that would share these stories of Roswell with him. So I think that in the back of his mind, he was always kind of an advocate for getting that out. But in terms of his recent activities, he is getting on in years, no question. But he did participate in the Stephen Bassett stuff that happened, I think, a year or two ago, right?
Yeah, 2 years. 2 years.
2 years ago.
By film.
Was it? Well, he hasn't traveled that well. I know that we were considering putting him on camera for 701, and it was like, well, 6 hours. Maybe I'll consider it. Maybe if you do first class, and he didn't want to come. It's a lot of travel. I mean, he's got to be in his 80s now,
Yeah.
But I don't think that he's had I think if he had a personal experience while going to the moon, he would come out with it, and he hasn't. I don't think that, and I'm only saying this because I've met with a number of astronauts, and I don't think that NASA's put the clamps down on them necessarily. That I don't think there was an encounter on the moon. I think we went to the moon. A lot of people think that we faked it. I don't personally. I'm not one of those people, because I've met with enough of the Apollo astronauts. I went to the 100-year space, their flight anniversary in Washington, D.C. I met with a number of Apollo astronauts. I think if just one of them had come forward and said, look, it was a fake, they haven't done that. Having said that, with Hasselblad cameras, no viewfinders, and gardening gloves on the surface, perhaps, I'm just saying, perhaps this endeavor and the fact that we're so many people watching television, maybe NASA came up with an alternative footage to show in the unlikely event that they were unsuccessful in capturing adequate footage for the world to see. Maybe some of that has leaked out over the years. Maybe that happened. I don't know. But I believe
it's from equality, though. I mean, and some of us on the Fade to Black crew got to watch a wonderful thing called Decoding Kubrick, I believe it was. And
right.
And what do you think about him? Was he had an ear to what was going on and had to keep a secret, or?
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's some compelling evidence. There's some weird shadows. There's things blowing around. I mean, there's no question that there's some compelling evidence. But I wish we would have had just one astronaut from the moon missions to have come forward and said, "Look, this is what went down." But that's never happened. And so
what they've said, excuse me, but what they've said many times, I was told by many people, they're asked, what was it like? You walked on the moon. What? And so many of them said, well, gee, we were so busy working, I don't remember. I would have peed my pants, to have that opportunity. How could they not remember?
Well, it's interesting because I asked the very question to Apollo astronaut Edgar Mitchell, and he said, quite honestly, James, up until the point where we shut all systems down on the surface of the moon, I was so involved with the decision making and I might as well have been in a simulator. I didn't have time to absorb what I was actually doing until all systems were shut off, and there we were listening to the sounds of these micrometeorites pelting the skin of the spacecraft sitting on the surface of the moon. And it was only that point where they could reflect on what they were actually doing and where they actually were. So, but he said that some of these astronauts, it didn't have much of an effect on them. Some of them it had a profound effect on them, and it was a life-changing effect. But some of them are just these very pragmatic, test pilots that don't really didn't really have much of an epiphany from the whole experience. Unlike, I think, someone like Edgar Mitchell. So, until we have any testimony from any of these astronauts, I have to go with the fact that we did go to the moon. And I even have one of my best friends that thinks I'm crazy for believing that, but I have to because we don't have enough credible evidence telling us otherwise in terms of testimony.
Thank you for the call, Dino.
Thanks. And someday tell us, Jimmy, what happened to Story? We're still wondering out here.
We're still working on it.
Story Musgrave?
Yeah. I'll tell
right,
James.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dino.
Talk to you.
Yeah, we had a Story booked on the show a couple of weeks ago, and great conversations with Story leading up to the show, and then boom, he has disappeared. Oh, did I lose James? James, I think we lost James here. James, are you there? Let's see if I can raise him back. Wow.
Hey, lost you there.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
I didn't even call you, but you just left. See, somebody isn't digging it. That's bizarre. Story came and went, and we're still working on it. Us and another company that we're working with on that, and it's just weird. Story just has disappeared. And
What do you mean disappeared? What do you mean?
I can't say any more than that. He is not it's not only with this program, with some other people that are involved. He stopped communicating. So we don't know.
Okay, 'cause we interviewed him for 701.
Yeah, and leading up to the show, I'll just say this. When I spoke to him, he was like, "Hey, Jimmy, man, excited, fired up, man. I got a company in Burbank. You're in Burbank. Can't wait. I'll be in town. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome." We had a great, and that was like 2 days before the show. And then, boom, nothing at all. It's just really strange. And we are continuing the pursuit, and that's all I can really say right now. But yeah, it's really bizarre.
Well, I'll tell you, he gave one hell of an interview. My God, that guy's amazing.
Yeah, he is.
He's somebody who's so bright. He's so sharp. I asked him. I said, "What do you do when you're not piloting the space shuttle?" "Oh, I'm performing surgery."
Yeah, right. Yes. You remember that movie Buckaroo Banzai?
Yes.
That's Story Musgrave. That's Story Musgrave. Whether he's performing surgery or time traveling, that's what he does during the day. He gets up and he's going to figure out what he's going to do. I guess I'll go on.
Imagine, what do you do? "Oh, I pilot the space,
I'm a Marine Corps fighter pilot. No, I'm a space shuttle. No, I'm a doctor.
I fly the space shuttle. And I do open heart surgery."
Yeah. And I'm farming and landscaping, Yeah, pretty crazy. Or fathering children, 80 years old. He's cranking kids out.
He is incredibly energetic and so focused. I've never met anyone like him. He is a phenomenon. I mean, really. And his views on, I've never met anyone with his perspective. He was so bright and so articulate and so energized. It was an incredible interview, and he changed, like having met Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell's changed me forever. Story Musgrave, in a way, changed me forever at the meeting with him. You know, we interviewed one of the highest-ranking military officers in American, like the head of the entire United States Air Force, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Tony McPeak. You know, Tony McPeek.
Yep.
Yeah. He said some pretty interesting comments. Not so much pro UFO, but the fact that there was certainly nothing in the United States arsenal that would account for any of those flight characteristics, which was very powerful from a man of his position.
Let's. I missed a commercial break, James. Well, let's wrap up this interview in just a second. Let me take this quick commercial break, and we'll come back and say goodnight.
That was great.
Stay with us. All right, Fade to Black. Clicking buttons. Here we go. This is Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the Masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, talking with James Fox. Bespoke Radio for the Masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Quick short break. We'll be back to wrap up with James Fox right after this. Stay with us.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Attention, all Fader Knots. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. May arrives soon, and with it comes another Contact in the Desert. So join me in Joshua Tree, California, for the 3rd annual Contact in the Desert Conference being held May 29th through the 31st. 2015 brings another awesome lineup of speakers, including publisher of Legendary Times, Giorgio Tsoukalos, New York Times bestselling author David Wilcock, journalist and conspiracy expert Jim Mars, former head of UFO Project for the MOD Nick Pope, investigative reporter Linda Moulton Howe, author and contactee Travis Walton, UFO historian Richard Dolan, and many more. You don't want to miss this. Fade to Black and KGRA will be there broadcasting live May 29th. Just visit contactinthedesert.com for tickets and information. That's contactinthedesert.com.
This is KJCR at jimmychurchradio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the Masses. I am your host, Jimmy Church, Game Changer Network, KGRA The Planet. Talking with director James Fox all night. James, I've had a great time tonight. Always do with you. One of the things that you had mentioned earlier, that in 701, you had done, ones and twos, but now you're going for closer encounters in 701. Can you tell us about one of them? James? The NSA, man. Oh, no. James, are you there?
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
There you are. That is bizarre, man. Somebody's messing with you. Somebody is.
Jesus, I was like here the whole time going, I didn't push the mute button. I'm right here.
So the question was, you said that you were pushing for closer encounters and contact in 701, something that you hadn't done before in your previous documentaries.
Well, if you look at it out of the blue, and I know what I saw, we we deal with close encounters of the first and second kind. It's been categorized by Dr. Hynek himself, who investigated UFOs for the United States Air Force for 22 years, as close encounters of the first, which is where you have a UFO sighting, close encounters of the second kind, where you have a UFO sighting that affects its environment, whether it's photographed or whether it leaves a burn mark on the ground or a burnt-marked face. On close encounters of the third kind, where you reportedly see the beings, the occupants. And I've never dealt with close encounters of the third kind before, but in 701, we're dealing with, we had a close encounter of the third kind with this core New Mexico case, which occurred in April 24th, 1964, with Officer Lonnie Zamora. Absolutely phenomenal case. There were two occupants outside the craft. The military investigated. I'm in touch with the two sons of the first military officer who was on the scene, talking about, they took diagrams of the footprints, the depths of the footprints, the size of the footprints, the weight of the object. There was landing prints, scorch marks, indications of the nature of propellant from the burnt marks and the smoke left on the ground. Colossal amount of physical evidence at that case, and a very, very good eyewitness testimony. A police officer and other people in town that you mentioned yourself. So that's one case. There was a case in Varginha, Brazil, which happened in 1996, which, if you have no experience in the UFO field, and even with experience in the UFO field, you might think, boy, this is far-fetched. A UFO allegedly crashes, and then the occupants are seen walking around the town of Varginha, witnessed by hundreds of people. Again, in 1996, there's that case that we're featuring, and then, of course, the Rua, Zimbabwe case, which you and I discussed earlier. And there are the Flatwoods case that happened, I think it was in the 50s. And a handful of possibly other cases, one in France and then the one that you mentioned earlier in Australia that we'll be dealing with.
How close are we, now that you have done all the work that you have, how close are we to disclosure? And the question is, we talked about it earlier, but how close are we? And quite frankly, are we going about it the right way?
Well, how close are we disclosing? I don't think that the President of the United States is going to get up, as I've said earlier. I don't think he's going to get up and disclose. I don't think the President of the United States has anything to disclose. I think there have been efforts made, I can prove that probably in any court of law, beyond a reason of doubt, that there have been efforts made to get access to this information. By Carter and Ford, and probably, maybe Reagan had a bit more information than not, and certainly Clinton. Maybe Obama. I know that Podesta's made inquiries for sure, but I don't think that the president's going to do that. Why would you debrief an elected official that's going to be there for 4, possibly 8 years, on the last 70 years of history on this phenomena? And then I don't see that happening. It doesn't make sense to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so the only way, and I've said this before, the only way I feel disclosure is going to happen is that if we educate the public enough with good films and good information. How do you get a good film out there? Well, you need a good platform. It needs to be a theatrical release, in my view, and enough people to really see. Like, I think that if I don't know if I know what I saw would do it or not, but if I know what I saw got picked up by someone like Lionsgate and got a distribution deal, kind of like Michael Moore got on Fahrenheit 9/11, that could have really rattled the cages. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Was the integrity of the film good enough for that to happen? I don't know. I certainly tried, and I wish it would have happened. But we're really going to go for it with 701. Our goal is to get this out to as many eyeballs as possible. We're going to follow up with a 4-hour television special with all the residual information that we have, and interviews that we have, and cases that we have. Hopefully, it'll get the recognition or the distribution that it deserves, and enough people will become aware of the cover-up and all the information that all this incredible evidence has been withheld. I'm hopeful that'll happen. That's certainly our intention, is to get that to happen. If that does, maybe there'll be enough people that will pressure their representatives to push for congressional hearings. Congressional hearings, enough military people get congressional immunity and come forward and testify publicly on the record, for the record, on television, then they'll be forced to that'll be a disclosure right there. So that's kind of our goal.
Well, how do we find another Larry King? How does that happen? He was just golden for all of us.
He was great. He was great, but I mean that wasn't necessarily going to that wasn't necessarily going to do the job. You can only get so far with that. I mean, I don't know how many people saw Fahrenheit 9/11, but it was quite a bit. That got really good exposure. I think it's going to take something like that. I don't know. Was it 100 million?
Right.
Was it more?
Right.
200 million, all in a short period of time. I mean, we're not talking about over 5 years or 10 years. We're talking about, I mean, now the blue's been around for 12, 13 years, right?
Yeah. Well, but now we have to wait 2 more years for 701. And I'm going to let
Yeah, but listen, we're going to be doing things like there's going to be the release of this letter from Steven Spielberg, which could gain a bit of traction. So think of it as baby steps. Think of it as we're doing what we can.
I think you're teasing me, is what you're teasing the audience. 2 years. Is there any way to speed it up? Why 2 more years? And then
it would take at least a year to do the shooting, all the recreations. There's just no way to do that any quicker, I don't think. And then, you're talking another year of editing. I don't know how you could speed that up. I just don't.
Wow.
Even if we had $10 million in the bank, it's very time-consuming. Very, very time-consuming.
We do here on Fade to Black every Saturday. We have a private cinema that we do over at faders.org. I should send you the link to it. You should come hang out. But anyway, we do. You remember Mystery Science Theater 3000?
I do.
Okay, love that show. Well, it's kind of like that in that we watch a movie together, and then we have a chat room there, and I go and we all hang out. We watch a movie and we comment. And we've done a lot of interesting documentaries, a lot of 1950s, really, Earth versus the flying saucers. So we watch all of that stuff and we hang out. Is there a rough cut? Is there something that you could maybe privately show to the Fadernauts of 701?
I could do something like that in a few months, possibly. Yeah, 5-6 months. Yeah, I could do something like that.
And then you could come hang out, and
but it would be totally private. It would have to be private.
It was totally 100% private.
Yeah, we could do something like that.
And you can come hang out and answer questions with everybody as we roll it.
I would love to do that. There's so it's like we're having this conversation. There's so much stuff that I'm realizing that we're sitting on. There's so many wonderful interviews that we've done for 701, and there's more that we're going to do. That there's so much to do. There's so little time. You have to prioritize. And of course, becoming a father has slowed me down a little bit, but I'll be speeding back up again in the next 2 months. I had to take some time down to get to know my son and raise him to an age that's acceptable to have a babysitter for a little bit. But that whole bonding period with him has just been incredible. I can't put a price tag on that, right?
You can't. And thank you for taking the time tonight. And you and I, over the last week, it was funny. I'll tell everybody right now, I'm getting texts like this. I'm babysitting Jimmy. I just love it, man. I just absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and we'll be in touch, okay?
You got it, James. Thank you so much.
Bye.
James Fox, everybody. James, man, what a show tonight. And thank you, everybody. Now, there you go. He just said, everybody, we can do a private 701 viewing in Fader Cinema. And anybody that can hear my voice right now that is not a Fadernaut, that is why you want to become a Fadernaut, because we hang out every Saturday night in Fader Cinema, watch films together, and just, oh man, and we go Beckley Teppy all night long. So there you go. Now, where are we at the studio clock here? All right, I've got a couple of other things I wanted to talk about tonight. Also, you know what? I have enough time to take a couple phone calls. Everybody that was on hold earlier, apologize, but that's what happens when I'm knee-deep in conversation. But I'll open up the phone lines right now. 323-825-5045, 323-825-5045. And the breaking news out of this interview, James Fox has a letter from Steven Spielberg that he's about to go public with. It is a handwritten, old-school, analog, paper letter from Spielberg. And I think he said next week. Might even do it here. How exciting is that? That is, it's been a crazy couple of months, hasn't it, when it comes to the subject of UFOs, not only in this country, but around the world. Pretty crazy stuff going on. All right, 323-825-5045, 323-825-5045. I'll take a couple quick phone calls before we wrap up. A couple of news items I wanted to get to tonight. Europe's largest budget airline, Ryanair, announced yesterday it plans to offer $14 tickets, transatlantic seats. That's right, flights between Europe and America. $14 a seat. The airline's board said the move is part of an ambitious 5-year growth plan that that is already underway with manufacturers about purchasing long-haul aircraft. London, Berlin, Dublin are among the European cities mentioned in the plans, along with 14 American destinations, including New York, Boston, and Chicago. No mention about Los Angeles. Don't get too excited. Passengers will be expected to pay for extras like baggage, onboard meals, check-in cost for each ticket, $95. That's right. You buy the ticket for $14, and then you got to turn around. You're going to pay, $100 a bag. You're flying international. You're not going to fly without luggage. You're going to have onboard meals. You're going to be flying for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on where you're flying from. So you're going to want to eat, and you're going to have to pay for that. The check-in costs are $95. Taxes to fly international, $200 and up. So $14. Now, I'm wondering if there is a way to get to a $14 cost. In other words, yeah, right. Yeah, Kat just tweeted $14 a seat, $2,700 for peanuts. I wonder if there's a way to go, like wear 3 pairs of pants, wear 3 or 4 shirts, wear a couple of jackets over the top of that, and wear your luggage, your toothbrush in your pocket, and wear your luggage so you don't have to pay for baggage. And then you bring a sandwich with you so you don't have to pay for the onboard meals. And the next thing you know, you're actually getting a ticket. Think about this, for $14. Check-in cost, just to verify that you are indeed getting on the plane. The ticket is $14, but you got to pay $95. It's bizarre. But on paper, it sounds good, right? Okay, there you go. Taxes, $200, no matter what you do. Taxes on a $14 seat are $200. It doesn't make sense, does it? But anyway, there you go. That's the press release. Dressed in loincloths and speaking an unknown language, the Mashko Piro is one of the last isolated peoples on planet Earth. They are increasingly venturing out of their forest in Peru. That's right. And they're freaking out the government down there. Nobody knows why they are suddenly doing this. Authorities say the encroachments on the Amazon rainforest by illegal loggers, gold miners, and other things are forcing the Mashko Piro, a tribe of hunter-gatherers, into some of their first recorded contacts with the outside world. This is going on right now. Often, the meetings are friendly. Everything is kind of cool. Residents surrounding the forest have been giving them food. Tourists are tripping out and actually giving them clothes because they're buck naked, man. They're like wearing loincloths. But some of the encounters, yes, have turned violent. This past December, Peruvian authorities evacuated 2 small villages after some 200 of the Mosquopiro attacked them with bows and arrows, killing residents' livestock and pets, carting off with food, pots, pans, machetes, and rope. In 2010, the Mosquopiro were accused of wounding a teenager with a spear. 2012, they killed a local guide with a bamboo-tipped arrow. Unbelievable. You should see the photographs. I wanted to get some of those posts over at the end of the show. Check with our Facebook page. We'll pop some stuff up overnight. Now, I'm going to close tonight with Robert Durst. Robert Durst. That's all that everybody is talking about here in Los Angeles. I mentioned this yesterday on the program. Robert Durst, multimillionaire, developer. They own his family owns a bunch of skyscrapers and large buildings across Manhattan. Not quite billionaires, but I think they're close. Depends on how you divide up the family fortune. Appeared to be preparing now for a new life on the run when he was arrested in New Orleans. Now, it's been disclosed today in court documents that when he was arrested, he had $40,000 in cash, and check this, he had a neck-to-head latex mask to alter his appearance. Think about this. Dude is weird. The details emerged today in court documents supporting a search warrant for Durst's Houston home. Durst, 71, whose court paper said that he had a net worth of about $1 million. Not buying into that. It's much more. He had been withdrawing large sums of money from various bank accounts, including daily withdrawals of $9,000 over 35 days since October. Now, listen to what I just said. Including daily withdrawals of $9,000 over 35 days since October. You do the math. Durst right now is being held right now on drug and weapons charges in Louisiana. They also found a .38, that's right, in his hotel room, and a quarter pound of weed. It was actually 5.5 ounces. Over a quarter pound of weed. He was getting ready to split. Now they're holding him in Louisiana because they've got these additional charges on him. $40,000 in cash, a .38, quarter pound of weed, and he's awaiting extradition to Los Angeles to face charges for killing Susan Berman here in Benedict Canyon 14 years ago. It's a crazy situation. I don't understand why the disclosure of everything, why the timing of the movie, and then to turn around and say that you're waiving extradition rights when they knew that he had a weapon and weed and everything else that was going to hold up the extradition and come back here to Los Angeles when he was indeed appearing to want to split the country, and he was in New Orleans. The story is getting more and more crazy every single day. There's something to this Durst story that I can't quite put my finger on. Why would he go when he knows he's wearing a live microphone, which he had been told about a few times? And you've seen the video. His lawyer pops up on the set. Dude, you've got a live mic. They can hear what you're saying. Shut up. Okay, and is there a right to privacy, assumed privacy, if you're going to the bathroom? No, you're wearing a live mic. And if you haven't been told that that there is, what's the word I want to use? Civil servants involved, police, investigators, detectives, and that's who HBO was representing while he was doing this documentary, then you don't have a reasonable right to privacy. The microphones are live. I don't get it. He knew exactly what he was saying. He's a smart guy. It's absolutely insane. There's something to this case. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it doesn't feel right. It just doesn't. And are they going to go and certainly end up charging him with they can't, he already got acquitted with what happened in Texas, but going back to his wife. It's pretty crazy. I don't know how to my mind says, I guess this is what I'm trying to say. I just want to make this clear. When a guy like this comes forward, then there's something else behind it. And I just think he's ill. There's something that's going to go on, and then there won't be a trial. That's my case. I think he's going to escape justice one more time. You watch this. That's my prediction. And when stuff like this goes down, I'm almost never wrong. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. Thank you, James Fox. Great show tonight. I can't wait for 701. Big news, he's got a Steven Spielberg letter he's getting ready to go public with. And we're going to do a 701 sneak peek in Fader Cinema. Become a Fader Not today. www.faders.org. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, James Fox. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show's produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fadey by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Tomorrow night is Fader Night, taking your calls all night long. Maybe we'll have a special guest. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Everybody be safe. See ya.